6 p.m. and I call this Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting to order. Just to recognize the members of the committee who are present with us this afternoon, we have Senator Jude House-Schneider, we have Senator Selena Babauta, the Vice Chair, Senator Karina Magofna, will be joining us shortly. Senators Dennis, Paul, and Carl are hereby excused. Just to recognize the legislative staff joining us or assisting the committee, we have our legislative assistants, Jolyn Duenas-Tagobo and Devin Marianas. We have our fiscal analyst, Dave Demapon, our counsel, Joe Bermudez, Sergeant at Arms, Ben Terlahi, and IT Manager, Jonathan Diaz. All right, and with that, members, can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda? All right, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We now move down to public comments. Floor is open to any member of the public to make comments on today's agenda. And it looks like we have none. All right, and with that, we move on to the next item, introduction. Good afternoon, everyone present here today. Today we called upon the Marianas Visitors Authority to go over their budget proposal as well as what has been provided by the administration. And it looks like the MVA is requesting for $12,389,000. However, the administration proposed the minimum of the 80% hot tax, which is around $4.4 million. And so before we begin with any of the questionings, at this time, I would like to invite the managing director, and I see the chair of the board as well, of any member of his team to join us here in the chamber. Yes, we have several seats open if you want to bring up more. All right, and at this time, I recognize the managing director, Mr. Chris Concepcion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time this afternoon and members of this committee. Before I begin, I'm going to defer to our chairwoman of the board, Ms. Gloria Kavanaugh, to do some brief introductory remarks and we'll go ahead and begin the presentation if that's okay. Okay.
Hafide Tirawami, and thank you, Chairman Melania, honorable members of the Senate, for the opportunity to meet with you today about the Marianas Visitors Authority fiscal year 2025 budget. As we mentioned at our House hearing, it's helpful and especially important with the challenges our tourism economy is now facing to have a in-person dialogue so we can better work together to overcome these challenges. Before I begin, I would like to introduce those with us today. We have, of course, the Managing Director, Mr. Chris Concepcion, Deputy Managing Director, Ms. Judy Torres, our Chief Accountant, Eds Dorenza, Marketing Manager, Thomas Kim, Community Projects Manager, Martin Duenas, Product Development Manager, Raquel Uggan, Tour Guide Certification Manager and others, George Sablan, Administrative Service Manager, Carol Chargaloff, and then our Special Assistant, Ms. Tina Matsunaga. Here you can see the 10 divisions funded by our budget. Of 42 FTEs, 27 positions are filled at this time, spearheading our work across each island. Allow me to start with specific requests of the committee, beginning with the expenditure distribution. First, a quick visual of our annual expenditures from pre-Super Typhoon Yutu to today. We will drill down into further detail in the next few slides, but this gives the big picture idea of what our priority expenditures are. In fiscal year 2018, you see the norm for several decades, which was a majority of our money being invested in marketing. In orange, 58% that year. This has always been the case historically. In blue, we have personnel. In red, operating expenses. In yellow, our community projects. And in light blue, destination enhancement. These charts reflect all funding sources, but let's take a quick look at local budget funding only for those same years. What we see under local funding only is marketing decreasing drastically in both dollar amounts and percentage as a natural consequence of U2 and the pandemic. We were able to bolster that with the help of federal funding in those years, but that will not be the case in the next year. As you can see, in fiscal year 2025, we want to maintain marketing as the majority of our investment again, but that will require both HOT and local appropriations. Looking at the specific expenditures for this fiscal year and our budget requests for next year, we want to increase marketing from 50% of our budget this year to 59% next year. Again, working to restore marketing to pre-pandemic, pre-U2 levels. Here are the details of those years. Our fiscal year 2025 budget request for Saipan, Tinian, and Rota is based on about $6 million on projected hotel occupancy tax, or HUT, under Public Law 18-1, and the other half on local appropriation, a total of $12 million. We do want to fill some of those key personnel positions on all three islands that have been long vacated. But most importantly, we want to make significantly higher investments in marketing and our product, our home through destination enhancement. We have a community development block grant for disaster recovery through NMHC that is providing funding for certain allowable activities and marketing in our source markets. It is quite restrictive and cannot be used for personnel, destination enhancement, incentives, our signature events, or even most marketing activities in the islands, like fam tours. This grant will expire on December 31st of this year. We are awaiting a response to our request for an extension, but if not, marketing will be entirely funded with local funds. Support to our other government agency here refers to our support to Parks and Rec and other agencies. In addition, 6% of our HUT goes to 3 municipalities, 2.5% goes to revenue tax for enforcement of the HUT. We must mention that this budget is very low compared with our competitors. Guam Visitors Bureau is requesting $35 million this year. Some of you have been to the consumer shows in the source markets, and you know that the Marianas is up against when it comes to convincing visitors to choose our destination. Competition is fierce, especially with the current exchange rate. I mentioned CDBG-DR grant. Allow me to share the MVA source of funding per your request for both this fiscal year and projected for next. Hotel occupancy tax, the CDBG-DR grant I mentioned, and appropriations. Another way to look at MVA's budget is in terms of our historical visitors' arrivals since 1978. By now, you might be well familiar with this chart. In 1997, our highest year of arrivals was about 750,000. In fiscal year 2019, before COVID, we were at about 425,000. So far, in fiscal year 2024, we are just over 160,000 arrivals as of May. Regarding June figures, our statisticians are working to review the visitor data collected on each custom form. We understand that there have been ongoing issues with the new online custom forms, and we're meeting with customs this week. We definitely want to ensure that each and every visitor is counted. Overall, arrivals year to date are 61% lower than what it was before Typhoon U2, and 37% lower than before the pandemic. With strong Korean market recovery in yellow, but very few from China in red, which were equal to Korea before the pandemic. You can clearly see here in the comparison market year to date, Korea market is lower than U2, but has rebounded strongly since the pandemic. However, we also need to keep in mind that arrivals for fiscal year 2019 would have been higher except for U2. when most flights were canceled in November and December of 2018. China is still very low. But other than the one-day ship arrival from Japan, China has been slightly outpacing Japan since Hong Kong Airlines started direct flights in April. We'll be giving more details of those markets today. But as seen with the suspension of flights by Asiana, the closure of Hyatt, the first Hawaiian Walarai branch, and other businesses, limited hours of DFS, the numbers of visitors we're getting now without a strong third source market is very challenging. For some, it's simply unsustainable. In terms of flights, we have fewer flights, fewer air seats from Korea compared to pre-pandemic. But as you can see, there's a big hole once filled by China. Direct flights from mainland China have not resumed since the pandemic, and we have only 2 weekly flights from Hong Kong. This is due in large part to the suspension of Annex 6. Thank you, Senators, for the support of the reinstatement of Annex 6, which would allow us to no longer compete for direct flights against a much larger destination in the mainland. For Japan, we have 3 weekly flights in United from Tokyo Narita, and of course, a daily flight from Saipan or to Saipan from Guam. And as we all recognize, inter-island air service is of vital importance to grow tourism. The MVA supports Kalili's efforts to gain an exemption from cabotage, which will create more options for inter-island travel for both residents and visitors. More affordable air service would be the #1 fastest way to attract more visitors to Tinian and Rota. And really, if you put it another way, if we want to increase visitors' arrival, we need more funding. Historically, you can see a correlation between the amount of funding the MVA invests and the number of visitors received. Now, it's not always a straight line correlation because there are factors outside of our control. The pandemic, natural disasters, currency exchange wars. But overall, if we want to return to pre-U2, pre-COVID numbers, it will require pre-U2 and pre-COVID investment. For more of our strategies, cost-saving measures, and plans for next year, I will turn it over to our Managing Director, Mr. Chris Concepcion.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of this committee, Chairman Manglonia, and members, thank you very much. In terms of initiatives for FY25, as seen on your screen, allow me to start with marketing. One of our challenges is limited resources for advertising and promotional campaigns, also limiting our ability to expand into new marketing channels and technologies. Nonetheless, we continue to invest in many programs with the 3 important pillars needed to sustain a healthy industry, other than having a great product to sell. Those 3 are travel agencies, airlines, and the consumer or the traveler. For cost management, we prioritize initiatives based on ROI potential, focused on targeted and effective strategies. We partner closely with the travel trade, conducting co-op promotions with travel agencies, coordinating fam tours so those who sell the destination know it well, attending trade shows, and more. We have similar activities with our partner airlines, and we connect directly with consumers to drive demand with co-op promotions with popular brands like Skechers, LG Electronics, and Shiseido. We also leverage social media influencers with large followings and support television, magazine, and other coverage of the islands. Looking at our top source market of Korea, compared to FY19 before the pandemic, total outbound travel from Korea has recovered 66% last year and is even stronger today. As we shared earlier, Korea is performing pretty well for us. Comparing year-to-date October through April and compared to our nearest competitor, year-to-date recovery in terms of arrivals, we are 53% higher. They're 6% higher. In terms of the number of air seats recovered, the Marianas has 63% more air seats than last year at this time, and Guam has 8% more air seats. So we are on better footing. Available air seats, and this is an update to what we presented to the House. For Korea this fiscal year, we are projecting about 233,000 seats. Using the average load factor or percentage of available seats sold from last year at 84%, we are projecting about 196,000 arrivals from Korea this fiscal year compared to 160,000 last year. As terms of air carriers, it's always preferable to have both low-cost carriers and full-service carriers. The departure of Asiana is a tremendous loss of 30 years of partnerships, but it also presents an opportunity for their chief competitor, Korean Airlines, which is Korea's national carrier with a bigger network of connections around the world, to now enter the Marianas market. In fact, this is a discussion that we've had with Korean Air since last year, and we continue to touch base with them periodically about this opportunity. At this time, the MVA is wrapping up our selection of a contractor for its representative offices in Korea and Japan. This is something that must be RFP'd periodically. So some of our initiatives that they've proposed for next year will be announced once the process is complete. Next slide. But we do know this. Airline partnerships will remain an effective way to stretch our limited dollar. We partner with airlines on marketing and promotions of our destination, which creates a lasting benefit for the islands overall, regardless of how a consumer may ultimately choose to get here. We will continue to work closely with travel agencies. We've seen the development of new products targeting niche markets, such as special travel packages for Tinin and Rota, English as a second language camps, and packages to join our festivals or sporting events and others. TAs are a key partner for us. In FY25, we plan to personally meet with consumers and especially media and travel trade partners by participating in travel fairs and other related public events. This is a very important part of marketing and promotions that can't be neglected to stay top of mind in our source markets. As mentioned to the House, GVB spent $1 million on travel alone last year. Our budget doesn't allow us to do that. So it is essential for us to have a presence at these shows alongside our competing destinations from around the world. We plan to continue our annual Marianas Roadshow in both Korea and Japan, where we invite travel trade partners to an event that is solely focused on Saipan, Tinin, and Rota, with the latest updates on destination enhancement and a great opportunity to answer questions and reinforce and forge new relationships. And we will continue a very effective return on investment, familiarization, or FAM tours. Through these FAM tours, the MVA pools resources with airlines, hotels, restaurants, and other partners to bring in media, travel agencies, key opinion leaders, or KOLs to experience the Saipan, Tinin, and Rota product for themselves so that they're better able to sell and promote our destination. Our most recent media FAM tour from Korea with 8 media outlets has already generated $250,000 in ad exposure. Travel agencies are very impressed with Tinin and Rota in particular, developing island-specific tour packages, as you can see on that screen. And as always, we promote all 3 islands, like with these huge anamorphic ads in Seoul, showing Managaha, Taga Beach, and Ichenchun Bird Sanctuary. Again, I want to say, in order to maximize this opportunity, we need affordable and easily bookable inter-island air service. Turning now to Japan. Japanese outbound travel is still about half of what it was 5 years ago. Japan's economy is stagnant. Overseas travel is slowly but steadily recovering. However, compared to 2019, there's still a long way to go. I believe you guys are familiar with the challenges, the current exchange rate, trend toward more domestic travel. A bit of good news, though, is that MVA's request to improve United Airlines' flight schedule was finally approved and began in May, making packages to Saipan cheaper for more daytime hours in the destination. That's been a significant help. We do see load factors picking up. We've just launched a new social media campaign in Japan, created in partnership with Ultra Super New, our creative ad agency with global brand clients, including Visa, Red Bull, and Nike, amongst many others. The slide there, between you and I. This will elevate awareness of the Marianas amongst a younger generation who don't have that historic connection with our islands. It will connect on an emotional level, which is what today's traveler is looking for, meaningful travel. And it will differentiate us amongst mainstream destinations with our natural beauty, our ancient cultures, and the warmth of our people. So here's this video that we launched for Japan.
終わりがない。例えば、潜りたくなる青、絆を育む青、恋に落ちる青、雫が光る青、心にとどまる青、呼吸を整える青、自分を見つめる青、時空を超える青、そして移りゆく青、夜が明ける青、すべてを染める青。 月が呼ぶ青。しー。ここだけの話。マリアナ諸島にはあなただけの青がある。
So this campaign focuses on 4 pillars: community, nature, mindfulness, and emergence, CNMI. It's a refreshing take on the Marianas. We're having it produced in English as well, and we invite all of you to like, share, and subscribe to our social media networks. We plan to continue to connect with consumers at shows like Marine Diving Fair. This year, we won awards for Best Diving Overseas, number 2, as voted online. The Marianas, Managaha, Tetetu Beach, and several of our dive shops and dive operators and tour guides regularly win awards associated with this fair. We will participate in Jata Tourism Expo, one of the largest travel events in the world, conduct social media campaigns and other activities similar to what we do in Korea. As usual, people were very attracted by our cultural activities. We'd like to promote the Marianas at other key industry events and trade shows, but we're working within our funding availability. So if we've done this fiscal year, we will host the Marianas Seminar for travel trade partners in key cities in Japan. The military and the Guam market are much smaller, of course, than Korea and Japan, but we still promote there as well. As you can see on your screen, we've had ads in Stars and Stripes military publication in Guam, Japan, and Korea, as well as in Marianas Business Journal. We've attended the Quality of Life seminar in Guam and supported the Guam social media fam tour to Rota a couple months ago. Regarding the development of another third strong source market, we have undertaken several activities in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Australia, and Singapore, meetings, trade shows, road shows, expos, to meet with the traveling public and dialogue with regional airlines and travel agencies about expanding travel to the Marianas. We will continue these efforts. Once committed partners are identified, it will take a considerable amount of time and millions of dollars to successfully open a new market that's not already familiar with our product. So next slide. Let's turn now to the work of the other important divisions at the MVA, beginning with product development, also known as destination enhancement. You may remember that last year we showed a bunch of photos of our dilapidated buildings, the visual pandemic. Well, today, unfortunately, those buildings are still there. The good thing is the zoning office is working on regulations to enforce the blighted building law. As the saying goes, before you invite someone to your home, you want to make sure it's clean and presentable. And that's really not just an MVA job. It is an everybody job, every department, every business, every community member. A few highlights of the projects that we've undertaken. We just unveiled this Hafaday Intiro iconic sign in Marpi this month, a tribute to our indigenous languages. It also glows in the dark at night, perfect for daytime sightseers and nighttime sky gazers, as you can see in the top right corner of that slide. We're excited to be the lead agency for an EDA grant for enhancement projects at 3 of our most popular sites, Last Command Post, Bird Island, and Suicide Cliff. Almost all our visitors visit these sites. So we've begun A&E design and we hope to break ground later this year. We've been encouraged by a growing number of community groups partnering with us on cleanups, painting the medians in Garapan, landscaping at the Saipan sign, water blasting and painting at the Japanese, Korean, and Okinawan memorials in Marpi. These are the people making tourism their business. We will expand on these partnerships next fiscal year. On Rota, we will continue to regularly maintain 16 tourist sites around the island. This year, we've had high school students repainting the historic Japanese-era sugar train engine and the iconic Japanese cannon. We want to do more projects with the community next year. Our staff also repainted the Songsung Village Lookout, repaired picnic tables and benches at Swimming Hole. Next year, we want to install more concrete picnic tables and benches at our sites, and we repainted and installed solar lights at Tenetu Bridge for our first Rota Marathon. On Tinian, we are responsible to maintain 17 tourist sites throughout the island. This year, we've repainted Suicide Cliff and assisted the mayor's office in clearing the former American cemetery for a Memorial Day ceremony. And as the historic Northfield is occasionally closed off for military purposes, we are working to develop new sites, re-clearing the Ginoza and Tachibana trails that have ties to Tinian's Japanese history, as well as a Long Beach interpretive trail. And of course, those trails will now also need to be maintained. We work closely with the mayor's offices, and we will continue to do so next year as we identify projects for each island. An important activity of the MVA also are our annual signature events under our Community Projects and Membership Division. We inaugurated the first annual Rota Marathon on President's Day this year with 83 registrants from on and off island as far away as Japan. We knew we had to bring back its own signature event to Rota, and this really was a great kickoff start with the tree planting ceremony to tie it back to ecotourism and an island-style banquet dinner at the Roundhouse. Strong support from Mayor Aubrey and the legislative delegation, including Chairman Manglonia, Valentino Hotel, Star Marianas, and the community at large. For FY25, we're starting planning and promotions even earlier. This month, in fact, we hope to once again work with the delegation on making next year's event bigger and better. Looking at our annual calendar, these are the signature events the MVA anticipates to organize again on the left, and on the right are other events organized by the community that we contribute to. We have a strong working relationship with the mayors of Rota, Tinian, and Saipan to help them get the word out on their events, and we continue to encourage all our community events to finalize their dates and some basic plans at least 3 months in advance, so there's adequate time for visitors to plan to come. As we've mentioned, these signature events are held to attract visitors, add value to their stay, and attract media attention to our destination. For example, we hosted 2 celebrity eaters from Japan and Korea at the OMG International Food Challenge at Taste of the Marianas. Through our Korea influencer alone, the event has already received almost $400,000 worth of PR exposure, as monitored by our MVA Korea office. Cost-effective digital marketing channels such as social media is really part of our cost management. We would like to expand on this. At December's Hell of the Marianas on your screen, we partnered with cycling clubs, airlines, and celebrities in South Korea and Japan. Almost a third of participants came from Korea, and we've gained almost $800,000 worth of PR exposure for this event. Saipan Marathon 2024. We had over 500 international and local registrants for this year and aim to exceed that in 2025. Again, we will be opening up registration and starting promotions next month. We would like to have Skechers back as our title sponsor and anticipate other commercial brand partnerships, which really helps us share with marketing costs, more key opinion leaders, more KOLs, and others. We have renewed our certification as a measured course by World Athletics in cooperation with AIMS, which is essential for attracting professional marathoners who add prestige to our event. The MVA just reinstated our tour guide certification program that's been suspended since the pandemic. This will help ensure our visitors have a safe and informative visit to our islands. We will need the help of enforcement agencies to enforce this law. I've already mentioned some of the challenges and cost-saving strategies, so please allow us to run through some of the high-level items that are within our local control. Marketing is always number one. We need to strengthen Japan and develop a strong third source market. Number two, absolutely, we are working creatively and strategically within our available funding, but if we want to remain competitive and generate more arrivals, we need more funding. In addition to what other agencies are doing to develop the destination, the MVA has its eye on key projects needed. Again, continuing to leverage and empower local businesses, nonprofits, students, and community groups to make tourism their business. As I mentioned, about a third of our FTEs are vacant. Some of this is because those positions were not funded in the current budget. And also our salaries are non-competitive. We've had good people get hired and then leave for better opportunities in the private sector or other government offices, which is great for them, but forces our staff to wear more than one hat or take on even more work without compensation. For example, the work of our procurement officer is handled by our tour guide certification manager, or sometimes our HR manager. With costly inter-island travel, including to Guam, we want to explore more opportunities to promote and attract visitors, especially to Rota and Tinian. We've had some success with the Rota Marathon, and we want to do more. Our hardworking staff in Tinian and Rota have a huge responsibility of maintaining tourist sites. They need commercial-grade equipment, and we need competitive salaries for those offices to retain staff. Our signature events are growing in publicity, but they could be further leveraged for further promotion of our destination. For example, growing Rota Marathon and enhancing the Rota Sweet Potato Festival. And lastly, we need the support of other agencies with prevention and enforcement. Crimes against tourists and the community at large are a growing concern. Panhandlers are harassing visitors, even entering restaurants and stores asking for money. And of course, we still want to see citations issued for littering and illegal dumping. So, in closing, FY25 is projected to be a year of continued growth for our visitor arrivals, barring any unforeseen circumstances, but it is going to remain a challenge without that strong third source market. Again, thank you for the opportunity to dialogue, for our good partnership, for our good partnership, good working relationship with the Senate. It takes a village to operate a tourist destination. We realize that the size of the small pie we're asking for is pretty significant, but we cannot risk falling behind our competitors with larger budgets. We believe that working together collectively with every department, every organization, and individual taking responsibility for their area of influence, we can make the Marianas all we dream it can be for those who live, do business, and visit here. Again, Suzus Masis and Olumai, Mr. Chairman and committee, we're open for any questions anyone might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair, for that very informative presentation. One thing I want to point out before we begin, I'd like to recognize the presence of the Vice Chair, Floor Leader, Senator Magofnia. In your presentation, you mentioned several times the third source market. And so I guess I just want to get an update as to plans for China or other source markets that you're looking into.
So, I guess the elephant in the room is China. We don't have an office there like we did pre-COVID. We don't have the same sort of network and intelligence that we used to have on the ground in China. So we've begun by sort of supporting the Hong Kong Airlines flights that are coming in. We're doing some marketing and promotions to promote that flight, which we all know, allows for connections from mainland China into Hong Kong and then over to Saipan. So that's sort of our first step back into this market. But funding is not there for us to be able to sort of go full force with how we used to pre-COVID.
Yeah. Additionally, one of the biggest is to get direct flights. Right now, when the Chinese would go through Hong Kong Airlines, for instance, they would have to go from the mainland China to Hong Kong and then Hong Kong to Saipan, which is double the cost that it was when there were direct flights. Again, that's the Annex 6, and we thank you for the support of the Annex 6. And hopefully, after the EVS TAP comes into play and proves that it is working, that we would get support from others in order to try to push this along. But without the direct flights, it's going to be extremely challenging cost wise, as well as competition between us and other destinations.
Do you have any data as to the arrivals from Hong Kong year to date? And where does that compare to arrivals from Japan?
It's actually higher. It's a larger aircraft, 292 capacity twice a week, whereas the United one is 166 capacity at 3 times a week. But the Japan market is a lot softer. Globally, it's a lot softer than China and Hong Kong. So the arrivals from Hong Kong do surpass the arrivals from Japan, and we'll pull that up here. Our deputy managing director has it, but it's a challenge.
But what's the load factors of those flights from Hong Kong?
They're pretty good. They're above 70-80%.
Okay, so has there been a shift in some of your marketing efforts? Maybe not so much away from Japan, but shifting more towards Hong Kong in that sense?
No, not really. What we did in the past is we actually set aside some money for other markets, and this is new markets, emerging markets. It's not very much, but we were able to actually reprogram some of the money and put it into there. We don't have an office in Hong Kong either, but because the Hong Kong Airlines is actually purchased or guaranteed hard blocks by 2 tour agents, we actually supported the tour agents with their marketing funds. And so we were able to do that. It's minimal, but it was something that's kind of like a shot in the arm just for the starting of these flights.
Are there any immediate plans to open up an office in Hong Kong?
No, not yet, because we need to make sure that it's it's a steady flow. Like, let's say, for instance, if they start the Annex 6, then that would more or less lower the demand coming in from Hong Kong. And so we don't want to put full force and go to an office there, especially when it's just a hard block, which means that the tour agents are the ones that that bought the seats. So we actually go and promote through them, because the tourists themselves have to book through them. So that's how we do it there. If we put too much and actually have an office there, and then we have Annex 6 that is opening, then we would be doubling our efforts. So right now, going through our stakeholders that have taken the risk by purchasing and guaranteeing the seats, that's how we are promoting the Marianas in the Hong Kong market, as well as the China market.
Thank you. Now, going back to your operational expenses, I think you've proposed about 1.6 for personnel. That doesn't include the 15 vacant positions that you currently have?
No, it doesn't, sir.
Okay. And in your proposal, you indicated projected hotel occupancy tax at 7.2 million. Is that your calculations and your estimates?
Yes, it is, Chairman.
Okay. What was your estimate for the current fiscal year? And where are we in terms of meeting those estimates? Aside from what the administration has proposed.
For this fiscal year, this current fiscal year, FY24, our projection was 4.1 million.
And where are you at right now?
In terms of collection?
Yes. And will you surpass that come September?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Edgar Duresa. I'm the Chief Accountant of MVA. So regarding the collection of HOT, so far, as up to today, we collected 2.8 million, and we're projecting to actually to be over than what's estimated by the law by the public law on 2024 of around 400,000.
So you're expected by the end of the fiscal year to get up to 4.5 million. But you said you only got 2.8 right now, so there's only about 3 months left, 2.5. Are you owed hotel occupancy tax right now?
Yes. The latest we received was from May.
Okay.
So we haven't received June. We do receive our allotments regularly. So I guess it's a matter of time.
Okay. Now, why the increase between the 4.1 that you've projected for this year and 7.2 for next year?
I guess so. Let me rewind a little bit. So our actual projection is 5,186,390, but we minus the 2% for each mayor plus the 2.5% for rev and tax and the 1% for OPA. So that brought us to the 4.1 million
For this fiscal year?
this fiscal year.
And how are you projecting next fiscal years at 7.2?
Yeah, that is the total, and then our what we're projecting to receive is actually 6.5. 7.2 million total, but then minus the 72,000 for OPA 1%.
So your
OPA.
80% would be 6.5.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Our 80% is 6.5.
And how did you project that?
We got it from the project. Our projection is 7.2 million, right? And
Right.
so minus 1% for OPA, minus 2% for each of the municipalities, and then minus 2.5% for event tax, which brings us to 6.5.
Correct.
That's the 80%.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now my question is, how did you, or what is causing that difference between what your projections will be for next fiscal year versus what
Visitor arrivals. Visitor arrivals. We completely track use our projections based on visitor arrivals, based on number of flights that we expect throughout the year, times 70, 80% load factor.
Okay. Has this been discussed with OMB and finance in regards to next fiscal year's projections and having that included in the revised budget this year?
Yes,
Or for next fiscal year?
we do submit this budget to OMB before it gets to the legislature for their review. And our understanding is they usually use our projections because it's fairly accurate. We haven't had any issues with our projections in the past from MBA. So we're kind of assumed that OMB was going to use our projections. I understand through Mr. Damapan that they have a slightly lower projection than we do. So I guess what we're going to stick by our projection, except that we want maximum flexibility to be able to adjust, because we received our hotel occupancy tax collections on a monthly basis, and that allows us to be flexible and reduce spending or whenever it's necessary.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, OMB and finance is not here, but I did send the invite out to them. But we do have finance coming up in about a week and a half, and the concern is that seeing as how your projections were not included in the revised budget, that could have earmarked what would have been for MVA at a much, which would set aside close to 2 million more than what you're being proposed at for the next fiscal year, if that makes sense. And where are you for the current fiscal year? Where are you at in terms of your projection on visitors' arrivals from what you've projected for this current fiscal year and what you are hoping to get by the end of this fiscal year?
My understanding is we are right on target with visitor arrivals, actually slightly higher. We weren't expecting Hong Kong Airlines, when last year, September, we weren't expecting them to come in this fiscal year, but they did in April. So we've had to adjust.
Okay.
And we can get those data. Do you have it?
So right now, our total arrivals as of May is 104,000. Our projection for FY24 is 195,000.
Sorry, 195 for the year, and you're currently at 104?
As of May. As of May.
Okay. Okay. I'll open the floor up for the members. If anyone's interested, recognize the vice chair.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, MVA and team, for coming in today. Good afternoon. I guess I would like to start with the revenue projections. And I know that the Chair had kind of already touched on some key points there, but I'd like to start with what was projected by MVA versus what the administrations had submitted. Because it is a key concern, right? It's a difference of about $1.7 million, which is quite significant. So I guess MVA had projected 7.2 million, and the assumptions based on that projection was the number of visitors that you guys have been keeping track. Are there any other assumptions that or basis for your revenue projections?
None. We're basing it purely on visitor arrivals.
Okay. And so let's go back then. I just want to see the statistics of the revenues, the projected revenues versus what's actually achieved. So if we go back to FY23, would you have your records as to what was projected versus what was actual? Do you have the number? Sorry, I don't know. Do we know what was projected in 23? And then what? I just want to see how consistent it is. Yeah. Okay. For FY23, what was projected? What was approved in the budget? Projected revenues versus what was their actual? Oh, so no, but that's 24. I wanted to see 23 to establish. Okay, so total. But gives niya projections for revenue. This is our
Not
expenses.
projections, these are the actual.
Okay.
Yeah, these are
I just want to start with the revenues because that's what determines their expenditures.
This is reference 25.
And just so that we understand why I'm starting with that, because your revenue pretty much dictates your expenditures, right? So I want to see how consistent, the projections are to establish, the projected revenues for the next fiscal year, because it has increased from 5 point, what was it?
Senator, so for FY 2023, MBA did not receive any HOT and only receive appropriation from the local government because the HOT was suspended for that year.
Yes.
But you had a projected revenue when you guys submitted your budget, right? You guys did project the revenues, despite the fact that you guys didn't
Okay.
receive.
Yeah,
So normally, when you submit
Yeah.
your annual budget to the legislature during budget, right, you would still have to prepare a projection for your revenues.
At that time, our focus was mainly on recovering the tourism industry. So we didn't have a projection. We were still under appropriation. So we submitted what we needed to help the tourism industry recover from the pandemic.
So in the requirements to submit a annual budget,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, with MVA has always been preparing their projected revenue. So is FY23 an exception to that requirement?
Yeah, it was an exception because we were basically, the earmark was taken away. It
Right,
was
but the
suspended.
earmark is normally decided when we deliberate here at the
Yeah, I mean,
legislature.
for fiscal year 20, since COVID, basically, it has been under suspension. And
Okay.
so, yeah, and so, what, a lot of the things that we did, like during COVID, we had from the CARES Act, for instance.
Okay.
I think in 2023, because we were still under the suspension, that we actually had to use some reserve funding.
Got it.
That
So
we
is
made.
it fair to say then that for FY23, when MVA submitted their proposed annual budget to the administration, that the revenue projections was not included in the budget submission?
That's
Okay.
right. So what we included was basically what we actually thought that we needed in order to get back to
Sure. Okay.
the pre-COVID,
Okay.
U2 numbers.
Okay.
But prior to that, we did it the projections every year. So before COVID, and we've been really pretty on track with that and accurate with it. So the models that we use in order to make our projections have been right on. And like managing director had said before, typically OMB actually uses our number with a projection. Why they didn't use it for fiscal year 2025, we're not sure.
Okay.
In fact, I think when we received the letter via the chair, we were actually surprised that they did not use our numbers because
Okay.
they did use our numbers last year.
Okay. And so the revenue projections for FY25 was solely based on the number of arrival currently that the reports that you guys receive on a monthly basis. That was the basis for your projections.
Well,
your-
it's that, and then of course, we did count in improvements. So, for instance, from our Korea office, we test how the demand is going, and hopefully adding more flights, hopefully adding flights from other regions within Korea, for instance,
Okay.
which there are talks currently. There's talks currently with another full service. And then also with Japan, because they changed the time of arrival and departure, so it's actually more attractive. And so we're hoping that that increases, and it has since May increased the load factors for the Japanese tours. I mean, of course, there 50% of it is local, especially around the summertime, but it actually did increase the amount of arrivals coming through Japan. So we work in the trends,
Okay.
of what's going on in our source market, so that it's not exactly what we had for the previous year.
Okay.
So for 2024, we were actually looking at about $5.2 million total, not the 80%, but the total of collections from the hot. This year is 7.2.
Okay. So we do anticipate an increase in arrivals from Japan. Okay. And then also,
And Hong Kong.
or-
And Korea and
Korea.
Hong Kong.
okay.
Yeah.
And then I know that in the proposed budget for operations, we also MVA also allocated some funds for marketing in Hong Kong, China, and Taiwan. Correct? Did we also factor those estimated arrivals from these particular markets?
No,
So
no,
we're-
not necessarily. It's unsure, so we would prefer not to include that in our estimated projected arrivals for FY25. But we do believe that, with if the exemption on Annex 6 is approved, if once EVS TAPS comes into play on September 30, October 1st, we do anticipate that there will be an increase in arrivals. And
Okay.
then from there, we would definitely make adjustments to our
Great.
projections.
And I appreciate the fact that you guys are going the conservative way, because what you want to do is, use data that is reflective of what's really happening versus, these are all estimates, and we want to be mindful of that. If the numbers go up for these particular source markets, then that'll be great. You can make the adjustment as necessary, but to be conservative is very, very important. So thank you for that. It did say that 1.65 million is for other promotions. Can you care to please elaborate on that? Anywhere, or it just says other? It just says other.
Sorry, while you're looking at that, Judy, can I go back to you? You said that the projection is 195, but I'm looking here, it's
Thank you. There is a correction. I was reading calendar year. So far for fiscal year 2024, as of May, our total visitor arrivals year to date is 160,000.
and your projection is at
Projection-
253,
270.
270.
No, fiscal year.
So you're expected to get about 110 in the next
1, 2, 3, 4.
few months.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Senator Magofnia, are you referring to all other promotions here, 1.465?
So I guess there's a $8.4 million allocation on advertising and marketing. 732K for Saipan, 153K for Rhoda, 145K for Tinian, 2 million for Japan, 2.5 million for Korea, 500 for Hong Kong, 400K for China, 400K
the
for
marketing costs.
Taiwan, 70 for US and Guam, and then 1.65 million for other promotions. And I just wanted to know what the other promotions are.
So those are for some trade shows and expos that don't fall under these three countries. Travel, trade, marketing, including seminars and roadshows outside of Japan and Korea. Collaterals that we use to promote the destination, handling of our website, social media, and the apps that we plan to do, and influencer collaborations with key opinion leaders, and then those are items that
Okay.
were covered under all other marketing and
Okay,
costs.
great. Thank you. And then, so I noticed that there's some allocations for China and Taiwan.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's still the governor's stance that we pivot away from China. The understanding is that we weren't going to spend any money to advertise or market, in the China market. Do you know if that's still the case, or is MVA just
It's a
planning
wish
to?
list.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, at least they've come out, at least the administration, and they wanted to test the EVS tap, which kind of puts us in, I mean, I don't know whether or not we're wearing rose-colored glasses, but puts us in a little bit of hope that we might be able to open up China market. The 400,000 right now that is in the China market is a very minimal amount.
Very minimal.
And it would be something to basically kickstart. Let's say that it does happen and the Annex 6 is approved, then we would work with the tour agents, because all of these are basically hard blocks that are purchased by the tour agents, that we will be working with the tour agents to help them with doing a kickoff marketing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is something that we did basically with Hong Kong, is that we worked with the tour agents and we gave them several hundreds of thousands of dollars to kick off basically the marketing for the Korean or for the Hong Kong
Hong Kong.
flight.
Okay. And okay, so I just kind of want to make sure that we're in line with
Yes.
what the administration stance is, but it's always good to set aside some money in case that does
Exactly.
happen. So, and I know that $400,000 is very immaterial in comparison to the other, expenses for the other source markets. So, for Taiwan, 400,000 K. I know that when we had visited Taiwan just a couple months ago, we did meet with China Airlines, and we talked about the possibility of, seeing how we can bring some some of their visitors here to our island. And and Senator Babauta, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that the message that we kind of got from them was that at this time it's just not in the in the books. I mean, they just don't see the CNMI as a destination for their people. And one big concern was that there's no direct flights from Taiwan to the CNMI, and so that poses a challenge. And I would think it's similar to the mainland China, right? Unless we find a way to bring the airlines here, then we can probably anticipate more of the visitors from those areas to visit us. But what efforts or initiative has MVA, pursued to try and bring some of these airlines in? I know that you guys do meet with airlines and are always trying to promote the CNMI and trying to see if we can bring them here. But have there been any successes? I know that you guys were saying you were talking to was it Skymark that you guys were talking to, right? Any updates from them? And I know Korea, we're kind of okay. Could be better, but for Hong Kong, well, mainland China and then Taiwan. I know that China is one of the large markets that we could definitely tap into and see the benefits of that. So, do you guys have any updates for us as to any progress with trying to get some airlines in to the CNMI?
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to Taiwan. We've always put some money when it comes to a budget into the Taiwan market, because every now and then we would get interest from airlines like China Eastern. Ava is another airlines. So whenever there's a interest, and we go out and sometimes we do work through tour agents also in that area, then we want to make sure that we have some funding within the budget so that we can go out and we can do whatever the promotions of the marketing, joint promotions of marketing with the stakeholders in Taiwan, for instance. I already explained China, but then, as far as the other airlines go, we tried to reach out to Nauru, but they decided to go with Guam instead, which was unfortunate. But I know that the administration has been talking to Ambassador Turner, that is in Palau, and trying to make requests for other not U.S. Australian flights that would be able to do a direct flight here. So we need to make sure also, within the 1.465 is also kind of like a cushion for those types of markets that are not currently in the table. Regarding SkyMart, we have and continue to speak to them. They actually, Chris just came back a short time ago, having a short meeting at their headquarters in Kobe. And it looks very promising. As far as regular flights, they're looking maybe in next year. But as far as charter flights, it is a possibility. It's not going to be out of Narita, but it will be in another secondary market or secondary city. We're hoping Haneda, because they do fly out of Haneda. But the problem with Haneda is the slots. And so it's very difficult to actually get slots. United through Guam got their slots basically from Hawaiian Air. Pulling out, and so that's their challenge there. But out of like Nagoya and out of Kobe, they have a lot of slots, and so that might be something where it would start as a charter flight. We don't know, but we do need to work with our stakeholders, and we are, and the stakeholders being the tour agents as well as the hotel association that would bear the bulk of the risk on guaranteeing the seat purchase. And so that's something that we're looking at. If not 2025, the earliest would be the end of this year. But we're still reaching out and talking to our stakeholders to see whether or not it's something that they want to take the risk on. But yeah, communications have been steady and very consistent.
Okay.
We also tried to reach out to other airlines in Japan, but right now, with ETOPS, for instance, there's only a couple of airlines, LCCs, that would be able to fly out here. One of them would be Zip, but they just opened their San Francisco route, and so yeah,
Okay.
it's a long road.
Great. Thank you for the update. I know Chris earlier had mentioned that MVA had launched their marketing campaign in Japan right this month, and when I was reading the article, I know that I think it was they were hired back in January or February of this month, and so they had all these months to work. And then their MVA is only doing an advertisement or marketing for 1 month, this entire month.
They're on contract to August.
Right.
But from February up to really May it took time to send them down here, photographers, videographers, send them to Narota, meet with all the different local artists that we try to sort of promote culture and activities. And so July was the launch of this program. It's ideal. Aside from the social media launch that you see on your screen, we've also done advertising in the 3 of the main train stations in Tokyo. So those are millions of people every day, exposure to those kinds of that customer base, direct consumer marketing. And so far so good. We do have an RFP out right now. It's closed, but so we have some solid proposals that are in. It's not finalized yet, so I don't want to go into too much detail, except that whoever the new representative company is that's to be selected for Japan and Korea will take over. Will transition these campaigns into their marketing efforts for the coming year.
And how much did the campaign cost?
I think our contract with Ultra was like 200,000.
200,000.
Yeah.
And was that part of the spending plan for FY24?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we anticipate to allocate some budget for them in FY25 as well?
No.
Okay.
So when their term expires August, we're going to transition everything, all the work they did, to the new representative starting September.
Okay. How much are we budgeting for marketing in the Japan market?
1 million.
1 million.
Yeah.
And is Japan still promoting like domestic travel?
Yes, domestic travel. Japan has turned inward since COVID, and their outbound travel is weak. Um, you know, down as low as or as high or as low as 60% to Honolulu.
Right.
So everybody that's been dependent on Japan is struggling, but we are seeing outbound travel increase. We're seeing it on our flights. And as a matter of fact, our load factors from Narita to Saipan are higher than the load factors from Japan to Guam. So, and
Okay.
maybe that's because we're only 3 times a week and the Guam market is oversaturated with direct flights from Japan. But I think it's a good start for us. It's manageable at this time, and United does see, future potential for this market to grow. They're seeing load factors pretty good. That's what we want to see, and more bodies on the ground means more, money
Okay.
being circulated in the economy.
Okay. So with the current exchange rate and the continued promotion of domestic travel within Japan, that we're not. I guess what I'm trying to get to is, are we not wasting money trying to market in Japan, knowing that those factors?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think so. Well, one, we need, and wait, let me just back up a little bit. Ultra Super New, which is the video that you just saw,
Mhm.
was basically the concept, and this is the advertisement that we're doing. They are not the Japan office. The representative office. And so we basically, the representative office that we had for several years, we did not renew at the end of last year. And so we just did interim items. This concept basically, because we believe that Japan is a new market. It's not an old market for us. The travelers that we are used to receiving here in the CNMI are totally different. Now they're looking at the Gen Z market. And so this, it's really kind of funny because a lot of people don't understand this video, and it's because we're not 28. I mean, basically that's it. So this is the concept basically that they're seeing within the millennial and the Gen Z market, mostly the Gen Z market. And so we wanted, when we did the RFP, to start the new office with something, a concept to promote.
Yes.
And so this is the concept that they're going to start off with. And the presentations that were done for the RFP basically focused a lot on exactly this concept. This is what Japanese travelers are like now. And so they don't have to wait 6 months after they start in order to get the concept.
Right.
We are handing them the concept, and then they can approve from that concept and then just add to it. And so that's why we actually went this way, which is something that we've never done before, is to actually develop the concept for this new market, because it's new travelers. And so this is going to be handed off to the winner of the RFP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I kind of gathered that based on the presentation and also what was published on the newspaper. So I guess the target market for MVA, with Japan at least, is with the Gen Z and the millennials, right? And primarily, and is that specific to like the Tokyo market, or just Japan in general?
It's Japan in general. And
Okay.
the Gen Z market is basically, I mean, the largest market, that is traveling now. But we are still going to do the active seniors. We're still going to try to get the repeaters back.
Sure.
But being off the shelf basically since 2018, the market has changed altogether, and we wanted to make sure that we get a company that is basically in sync with how the market is. And so that's why we hired them.
Okay. Okay. I have more questions, Chair, but I'll yield for now, and I'll let the others.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I
Thank you.
recognize Senator Jude.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Director and Chair, and to your hardworking staff. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Just, I wanted to circle back on Chair Kavanaugh's statement on the the China market. And of course, Chris, can you just share what does it look like pre-COVID with regards to the denomination of tourists that are coming in and which target market or which market encompasses the most of the HOT?
So that slide up there shows the market share pre-COVID. By far, Korea and China were neck and neck. Korea was higher at one point. China was higher at one point. And so that was the demographic mix back then.
Okay, do we? I know it's kind of fairly new with the resumption. Are we safe to say that you're getting the same kind of clientele that you're getting, like the heavy hitters, the big spenders,
It's a mix. We're seeing a lot of families, which is nice. We do see DFS has, informed us that they do see traffic increasing from these people who are flying in on Hong Kong Airlines, but it's not enough. This is nowhere near what we used to be before COVID, and so it's a mix customer base that's flying in. We don't have a casino anymore, so those high rollers that blow millions at DFS are not here.
Okay, so I kind of base myself on what I read on the paper. They've really scaled down from a A330 to a 737. Is that something that they're using now with the Hong Kong Airlines?
No, they're still flying the A330. So and
How many packs?
292 capacity.
So 70% of that, about over a little bit.
Yeah, right now in July the flights are full. So it's high season though, July and August. But they haven't announced anything yet. But the long-term plan for them is to down-gauge aircraft but increase flights. So it's a win-win, and we actually think that's a better option for our visitor arrivals from Hong Kong and China. More flights per week instead of twice a week. They're looking at going to 4 times a week. Nothing's been announced and nothing's in writing yet, and we haven't received official notice. But that is a discussion going on right now. But that won't take place till third or fourth quarter of this year.
Okay, so can you, because Ms. Kavanaugh kind of mentioned about the EVA, EVS, TAP, and the Annex 6, how can that, how do you think it's going to be able to do the lay of the land with regards to that? As far as the shortest distance is a direct flight, and what was mentioned earlier in your presentation is that there's that leg, right? You're from mainland to Hong Kong, and then, but it appears that there's an increase in, so maybe it's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if you would go back to the number of flights, I believe we had 11 flights before from China, and that was all the wide body. So that was the 292 seats for different airlines. There were from 3 different destinations, four different destinations, 4 different cities within China. And so that's a big difference of the 11 flights a week than the 2 flights a week one. The other difference, or you were talking about EVS TAP. With EVS TAP, it doesn't make it's that EVS TAP is a vetting process. And so it streamlines when you get here. So when they go through CBP, basically there's not that 4-hour wait while they're going through this paperwork. Everything is vetted at least 5 days prior to arrival here. So that just streamlines the process, where the Annex 6 actually allows direct flights. Yeah, so it's a little different, and you kind of need both in play in order to get that market fully back as a strong second market. Actually, it's either the first or second market before, but as a third market that we're going after, that's how we get the big increases, is to have those 2. We just got word also that CBP, there was a question of whether or not EVS TAP will work in a transit flight. and we got word that it will work. So we're not worried anymore about the use of the EVS tap stopping flights from Hong Kong, where China citizens, PRC citizens, actually transit through Hong Kong. So we're not worried about that anymore because we did get word that CBP will approve that. So that's a good thing for us.
Thank you for mentioning that. So can you just explain? There was a mention of the strong dollar. Can you explain that, how it represents each destination and market, each market? Because it appears that it is for Japan, but is it a problem with Korea? But
Yes, it
we
is.
see an increase in numbers of people coming.
We do, and that, I guess it comes along with affordable air seats because there are LCCs that are coming in, and I'm sure the travel agencies have negotiated good airline rates with the hotel rates with the hotels. But the yen was at 161 to the dollar just last week. I think that is extremely expensive for the Japanese to come here or any U.S. dollar-based destination. The won was at 1385, I think, the same time. Very expensive for them to come here as well. Not as bad as Japan, but these things are sort of beyond our control. So we're kind of trying to manage what we can, at least in terms of when they get here. There's a lot of different offers that the partners are giving them, so that it kind of makes their stay affordable and enjoyable.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing to add to that, because of the competition and because basically the unfavorable exchange rate, what you're seeing when you look at the Hanmi report as far as the ADR, it's back to the rates of 2014. So it's decreased tremendously this year and last year, but especially this year, in order to compete with other destinations, to get the package low enough so that they would be able to be interested to come, because they're paying in yen, they're paying in won, and yet what is that? Which makes it more expensive for them. But the Hanmi hotels now, the rates are very low.
Okay, thank you. Just going back to your spreadsheet on your proposal, can you just run that by us again, like the marketing proposal of allocation that you request for the next fiscal year, like for Japan, for Korea, for Hong Kong? How much are you? I look at it, 500,000.
Yes, for Japan, the request is for 2 million and 2.5 for Korea, with Hong Kong 500,000, China 400,000, Taiwan 400,000, and then for Guam 70,000 is our request.
Okay, so does that represent your conservative representation of the growth of that particular destination or that market? Or I'm just trying to kind of re-ask the question earlier with regards to the Hong Kong market. I mean, there is as indicated by you guys, that you are monitoring closely and you're not too comfortable because there are some elements that you're still waiting for. But don't you think we need to increase the Hong Kong market?
Ideally, we used to spend $2.5 million in China and Hong Kong. We're nowhere near that, right? And I don't know that the budget can sustain that. So I think what we would like to do is to reserve 500,000 for that market. But granted, if there needs to be a shift in budget allocations between the markets so that we sort of put the money where it's needed, that can take place at a later time.
Okay.
But we're comfortable with these numbers at this time. It's something that we think is reasonable and we can work with it. And right now, as the chair mentioned, because we don't have any offices there, we don't have to fund any representation services. We're gonna have to just work directly with the airlines and the travel agencies.
Before I forget, so how did we do it the last time? I mean, pre-COVID, with regards to the direct flights.
We had offices.
No, but like you mentioned, Gloria, that the two tour agents.
Yeah, that's Hong Kong. Hong Kong, we actually didn't have an office, but we did have an office at one time in the China market. This time, though, what we're doing is we're working directly with the charter companies or with the tour agents that bought the seats, bought the hard blocks, and so we gave them some promotional or did joint promotions with them when the flight first was announced, in order to try to increase the interest, in order to get them here. Yeah.
Along those lines, so what we did, to be a little bit more specific, we brought in key opinion leaders from these places. We brought in media, we brought in travel agencies, to Serpentina and Rota, to using this money that we spent for Hong Kong this fiscal year, to be able to support these flights and, go back there and promote it, because it promotes the destination, not the travel agency and not the airline
Okay.
necessarily, but it's something we had to be creative a little bit with it because we didn't have an office, but it worked so far.
And another thing, I know that, it sometimes is a dirty word, but there's such a thing as reprogramming. And so we're flexible enough within the board that if we see an opportunity, that we would reprogram funds from one to another. So let's say, for instance, in Taiwan, if Ava Airlines comes and says, okay, we're going to do a charter flight, and we're going to do it for 3 months, and we need help, then we would be able to shift some money from other areas. We find it. We always find it. Then shift it over to there, so that we would take advantage of this opportunity.
Okay. So, thank you. So with this closure of Hyatt, and how are we navigating through with regards to the available rooms? I mean, what's the occupancy right now with the other hotel south of Crown?
Yeah, I mean, Crown, it seems, is really, really good. They've whatever seats I believe that they couldn't sell in Hong Kong, they sold to themselves, which it means that like Tan Holdings has a lot of companies that they own, and so when it comes to incentive tours, let's say Skechers would buy incentive tours for their employees, and so they would use those seats in order to bring them in. But they've been very aggressive and taking most. Well, that they bought basically half the plane for Hong Kong, and then that brings them in. So, and then also with the Japan market, the majority of those tourists that are coming out seem to be going to Crown.
What about the hotel south of Crown?
A hotel south of Crown is
South.
Gran Rio?
Yeah. What's the occupancy right now?
Which one?
Gran Rio.
Gran Rio? Oh God, I think it's single digits. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah. And I know that maybe Eland is about 50% right now, which is, I mean, it's a lot better, but it's only because it's high season. But it's still down around, 40% overall for the Hanmi hotels.
Okay. But the reason why I keep asking this, folks, is, obviously we're all concerned, the numbers and what have you, but we also want to be mindful, that if the market is there, case in point, I was mentioning earlier, shouldn't really. I mean, I understand, and I respect the treading carefully, but if the numbers is everywhere, not just CNMI, like what you said, even in the United States, they travel there a lot, and they even have economic forums between the two countries. Yeah, you said it, but so why we should open up if there's anyone knocking again. I'm assuming that you guys work closely with CPA, because we can sit here and say, oh yeah, this is our request, but if the flights don't bring the bodies to part of the statistics to get those,
Yes, Senator Jeter, I appreciate what you just said, but I want to give you an example of how we kind of work together and how we're able to take money from one program to another and try to find money for an opportunity. So, for instance, July, it started, I think, this week. There's a charter flights or additional flights from Jeju, and it's going to be for 8 weeks. 17 weeks, something like that. Yeah. But they were debating, from CNMI, Guam, Hong Kong, which flight to take away and which flight to to add. And so once we found out that they were basically turning away from interest from the Marianas, we immediately went out and we talked to the tour agents. We found a little bit of money that we were able to work with the promotions and joint promotions with these tour agents so that they can guarantee the seats. And then we also went out and we talked to Jeju, and we asked Jeju, come on, what can we do as far as promotions to help you say that CNMI is the one. Marianas gets those flights. So we did that all last minute, and within, I'd say, 2 weeks, they had decided basically to cancel 16 flights to Guam, and they canceled flights to Hong Kong, and they put 33 flights to the CNMI. So that flexibility, basically, that we have, within the board, within the management of MVA, is something where when we see an opportunity, we try to get at and we go after it. And it's so important to have the ear to the ground in those markets, so that when those opportunities actually come along, we'll find it. I'm quite sure your parents always said, you're going to go to college, or you're going to need this, a baseball glove. They don't have it, but they always find it, and we always try to find it.
That's why we confirm you, because you're doing an outstanding job at MBA, along with the partners. But Mr. Chairman, maybe in some of the operational side, how fluid is the transfer of funds from the Secretary of Finance to MBA?
It's quick. We usually get it within 30 days of the previous month.
That is correct. Yeah, we usually get it within 30 days.
30 days?
Yes.
So you request $10, you get $10 later.
It's usually a monthly base.
Oh, yeah. We haven't received our appropriation, though. It's 8 cents a month.
Okay, so there is a grant that you guys were given for BDA. Can you just talk about that?
Sure.
How much is it? And
It's 1.4 million. It's a tourism enhancement grant. I forget what it's called, but state tourism grant or something like that. So our plan is to, what EDA approved for us to do is those 3 projects. So complete renovation, new railings, new staircase, new parking at Bird Island, with an overlooking deck, and then Suicide Cliff, brand new railings, designated parking, because right now it's gravel, and then a brand new restroom at Last Command Post, which is gonna be larger than the one that's there now, with the intent that it be sort of the main restroom in that area. There's still a restroom, of course, at Grotto, but that's under Division of Parks and Recs. So that's the EDA grant.
okay, where's Road and Tinian?
There was no EDA only approved these 3 projects, so it's a federal grant. They went through that process, and
The mayors of Road and Tinian didn't submit?
No, not for this grant. Not that we're aware of. Never seen anything.
Okay, last but not the least, on our RUD. It's not a budget question, but I was asked by constituents here, is there any way that we can reconsider the name Suicide Cliff and put it back to the historic name? And it
Yes.
speaks for both islands where they have Suicide Cliff.
Thank you, Senator. We've actually discussed that. Our PR partner here, Catherine Perry, has also kind of brought that question up to our team, and I guess and Judy has some recollection of previous MVA management teams that tried to do the same thing.
Actually,
Because you guys are outstanding in marketing,
Yeah.
and I can sure you're gonna put the same effort in marketing to flip the name.
Actually, we did put back the original names for most of the MARPI sites, but for some reason, people were still calling it the Suicide Cliff.
Because the directors call it Suicide Cliff, that's why.
Bird Island, but
No, but jokes aside, please, go back. And if there's a lot of members here that are be able to
maybe that can be a
introduce a
part of
law
this
or
project.
something if need be. But
Yeah, maybe that can be a part of our global branding project, or even this one here. When we put up the signs, we could have it in the indigenous
because you
languages.
said you're appealing to the Gen Z. So when you say, "Oh, you want to go to Suset," what? Suset what? I'm just saying,
Thank
you know,
you.
that our people here, they're
Agreed.
asking, is there any way we can revert it back to the historic name
Yeah.
of the two areas? And there's two destinations. I mean, there's two islands here where they have that.
Thank you, Senator. And point taken. And yes, we've had discussion internally. We'll move it to the next level.
Maybe more money will come if you remove it.
Oh, okay.
Just saying.
Okay, done.
I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Jude. I recognize Senator Babalta. Senator Babalta, you have the floor.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chairman Manglonia. Where do I even begin? I'll give you the choice, good news or not so good news. Good news first. I want to congratulate MBA for the clean audit that we just got. I haven't read the entire audit from, who was it? Berger, submitted to us by OPA, but I did get a gist of the highlights of it. So, and I was just reading it again today as our senators were asking you questions. So I do want to congratulate MBA. And then the not so good news, or rather questions, several things that I wanted to air out to MBA. Specifically, the first couple of questions are for the managing director, Mr. Conception. You've met with myself and Chairman Donald in his office previously last year to request for the subsidy contract for United Airlines. Over a year later, we have not gotten that, and it has expired. That was the old contract. The one for 2022, we asked for the 2023-2024, which is now expired again, and we have not gotten that. I would also like to receive the recent contract that was renewed this year.
We do have the existing one that's currently going to
effect.
expire August, and then we don't have a third one. Not yet.
Okay, because I read recently in the paper that it was recently renewed.
Nope.
So there was some
Yeah, I mean,
confusion.
no, talks are on, and we do have a verbal agreement that it will continue.
Okay,
But the contract itself and the details to the contract
sure.
have not been received yet. It goes basically through the legal counsel of United, and then back to us, goes through our legal, back to them, and so on. So it takes some time, but in face value, in order to get the flights loaded onto the system, so that there's consistency, and as far as booking and the tour agents are able to sell them, we agreed in face value, basically the concepts of what it's going to take. But the
And
contract
are you
we're not
anticipating the same amount this year? Increase, decrease?
way decrease. Yes.
Can you share with us why that is? Or are you not able to? Because the contract is still in negotiations.
Not able to. The contracts are still in negotiations.
I see. Okay, so that's that. With respect to Senator Karina's question about China market, as she mentioned, we went to Taiwan and met with chief executive or operations officer from China Airlines. And one of their biggest, and I hope you guys take this in consideration, because I know you are actively working with the private organizations out there, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club, to try and get the China market. The very, very significant takeaway when we met with China Airlines is that they do not have the inventory. So I think we need to really pivot. They've already told us they do not have the capacity, the aircraft. And right now, Boeing has a lot of back orders to upgrade the aircraft. That is their biggest challenge.
China
And-
Airlines.
Yes.
Okay.
And we heard it directly from the chief operating officer. So that's that with respect to China market. Maybe you need to
But
take
China
a.
Airlines is headquartered in Taipei. It's
That's
actually a
correct.
Taiwan airline, not a China Airlines.
China Airlines
The-
is.
The name is China Airlines, but it's founded and headquartered in Taiwan.
That's
not,
correct.
Not China.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that. They do not have the inventory. I just wanted to add to her comments based on our meeting with them. So maybe that's new news for you guys. Maybe you guys didn't know about that.
They don't even fly to Guam right now. We're
Mm.
aware of their capacity issues.
It's not because the individuals, the community is not traveling.
Right.
It's because they don't have the inventory.
Right.
That's their biggest message to us when we met with them. Let me get my notes. I know MBA has been repeatedly coming to the legislature saying, look at GVB, they have more money for their marketing. But I think, it's time that MBA communicate with us. And I understand the comparison, the need to compare with other regional areas. But we can never, I think, in terms of dollars, compete with GVB because GovCom always has in the past recent years has been reporting a surplus, something we don't have. So that's my comments to the comparison to GVB. I mean, it's okay to compare it to GVB in terms of tourist arrivals, but not in terms of budget. I just don't see the.
Agreed. And really, we're not asking for $35 million. We're
I
asking for
agree.
a third of what GVB
And there's no way we're going
gets.
to give you 35 million.
Right. So,
Not in this
when you
fiscal
look
year.
at in comparison, Guam is triple our population, triple the number of arrivals.
Yes.
So 12 million is tripled is 35 million, 36 million. So that's kind of where we're gauging our
So
numbers.
1/3 of their budget in terms of,
Basically, yeah,
and you
third.
base that based on their population compared to us.
Right.
Okay.
And number of arrivals.
It would help us to clarify that when you come.
Yeah, number of arrivals as well. We had 200,000 arrivals that we're projecting. They have 600,000 arrivals. So it's fair.
Talking about the video, I'm glad you mentioned that it's targeted to Gen Z. Because when I saw the video, I asked myself, does that video make me want to come to the CMI? And it doesn't. Because like you said, I don't understand. I'm a different generation. But also like in terms of the music that was used, that's a big factor for me. And I don't know how other learners are, adult learners, because the video, I feel the music should be upbeat. That's just a comment. Yeah.
And a lot we get comments from that, and because Gen Z is something that's very new to everyone.
Yes.
Sorry, it's very new to everyone, and the music basically matched the feelings of the generation where they want this privacy, they want this quiet, they don't want the hustle and bustle. Well, we actually had one of the presenters for the RFP who is promoting the Gen Z market. He was absolutely beside himself for the weirdest thing. Oh my God, your taxis do not take credit cards. And it was such a huge issue with him.
Okay.
And then go, that's Gen Z. And so they're going to have a problem with that here. But, even in Hong Kong, they didn't take credit cards. So I don't understand. But, but it's a different
What do we
market
know, right?
that
We're
we,
not.
that we are kind of, I'm quite sure that the music that we listened to back in the day is confusing to our parents too. So this is confusing to us. It's new.
I get
We're
it.
glad that we have some of the managers here and the directors here that are in that generation so that they could explain it to us. But if I'm going to actually admit that I don't understand it.
I'll let the
その島
experts
の
deal
青
with
に
it. Just my
終わり
comments,
がない
Um,
例えば
and part of the truly part of the issue with China again, as the governor has repeatedly mentioned, and perhaps I have a better understanding of what they talk about when they say about the geopolitical tensions because of my background, but I do have sources within the military community that tell us it's very serious. That's all I can say about it. I don't know the actual details of it, but I do know that it is a very, very serious situation with China right now. So perhaps MVA can look elsewhere for the time being.
Yeah.
One emerging market that you guys can focus on is Taiwan.
Yeah.
Taiwan, when we met with them, many of the government officials have expressed positive perception to helping the CNMI, more so even than Guam, based on my conversations with some of the government officials there. And in fact, one of them told me that CNMI is actually more popular in Taiwan to the adventurers, outdoors people than Guam is. So I'm sharing that information with you. Hopefully you can go back to the table and do some kind of analysis on that.
Well, I mean, when you explain to us as far as the limited inventory, that happens also in Korea. Because it actually everywhere in the world where airlines had to they gave up their wet leases for airlines or for airplanes for actual inventory, and then when they started bringing them back, they went for yield. And so one of the things that we're looking at even in the Japan market is how to get the plane in here, go somewhere else, and then come back, so
Yes.
that we don't have one plane one day versus 13 hours for one plane, utilization of 3 times back and forth to one destination. So we totally understand, where Taiwan is, and little by little it'll get better. But communications are always open. We've always tried to again, listen and find out where they're coming from, where is there's an opportunity. And even with our budget, even though it does show, again, like I explained to Senator Jude, even though it has 400,000, if there's an opportunity and if we can make it happen, we will find the money.
Now for the financial, how much do you have currently in your reserve account?
3 million.
What was it pre-pandemic? More? There.
It was about 6.2 million
Pre-pandemic,
pre-pandemic.
and now it's down to 3.
Yeah.
And you've been using this to supplement, I
Yeah.
guess, most of the.
So Senator Karina had mentioned about 2023,
Yes.
because we had the appropriation that was very low. Whenever we needed more money, whether or not it was for promotions, offshore offices, or anything, destination enhancement, we actually, even local events, I think that we paid that year our Taste of the Marianas with reserve funding. And so that little by little, it is because of the appropriation, we actually had to draw from there.
Okay. How many months do you pre-plan before your signature events? Like Taste of the Marianas. How much planning do you guys give yourselves?
Generally, through Martin Duenas' division, 6 months prior.
Okay. Huh? Okay.
So marketing, like the Taste of the Marianas, basically with our tour agents and our partners on the offshore markets, or offshore markets, yes, they already have a calendar of events, so they already know when things are going on, and so they will promote it and know what's coming up. As far as on the ground preparation, it takes about 6 months.
And with your marketing efforts in the Asian market, what do you guys do aside from just attending or participating in trade shows or road shows. What is there any follow-up after that? How frequent do you engage with your counterparts in whatever country you guys are
Absolutely.
marketing?
We have weekly meetings with our offices in China and Japan, Korea and Japan. But other activities that we do are primarily fam trips. We bring media down here, travel agents down here, MICE groups that come down here, television shows that come down here and film. So there's a lot of other activities led by our marketing team who oversee these things. And in terms of trade shows, are really there for networking and sort of beginning discussions on future programs and plans for the year. So that's where we sort of we touch base with industry partners, meet new faces that represent these different companies, and then plan ahead and schedule these things throughout the year.
Of the trade shows, how many engagements have you actually received from your networking?
I don't know the number, but it's in the hundreds of engagements that we engage with and then follow through afterwards.
But they're just not interested for one reason or another.
No,
We haven't really materialized, have we?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All these things that we see on the show, on the screen, those are from trade shows that we participate in, and then we negotiate and follow through if it's worth it, if it's something deemed,
I mean,
worth the
from the
investment.
educational fair, let's say, how many visitors have we realized from that?
When they're traveling on let's say the education,
Yeah.
it's the numbers actually would have to come from Hanmi, because I know that it's very popular right now. I would say like for PIC, which has increased and expanded their program, they're one of the bigger hotels that actually have that. For when it comes to like coming here and working with PSS or working with the other schools, the tour agents themselves contact directly. So we kind of like hook them up. Okay, this is who you would speak to. This is, and then we will promote it. We'll help them promote the actual program. But contacting them and putting together with the people on the ground are what we that's our job, and that's what we do. Follow up also, when we go to these trade shows, it's not just about the trade show, but it's after the trade show. A lot of things that happen, we go and we have the personal one-on-one meetings with a lot of the tour agents to say, okay, this is what we were hearing, this is what they were hearing, and can we do it? So when we're talking about the ESL program, if we're talking about adventure sports, what can we do to get this done? Tinian and Rhoda come up a lot, and there's so much interest in Tinian and especially Rhoda actually, but it's always cost prohibitive, and the tour agents always ask us, is there anything that we can do to reduce the price of the airlines? And so that's the only thing that is stopping the explosion of Rhoda right now.
In terms of MWR market, military market, have you guys what's the impact of that so far? Is it
Not much. We advertise in Korea, Japan, Guam military bases. We attend these shows in Guam, 3 different shows that we attended. But we are seeing some traffic, but it's very, very limited.
Again, it's really cost prohibitive. You have four people in your what is that, family, and you want to go for a long weekend, and that's $2,400.
Just as the Micronesian Island Chiefs had a forum about a month ago, we just came back from Guam also for the Legislative Assembly, and we are trying our best to speak with one voice with our regional leaders to get that cabotage waiver. I know that is significant and will make a greater impact if we allow, or if the U.S. allows foreign carriers to jump to 2 different U.S. destinations. So we will continue to work that aisle There's also the 902 talks that the governor can bring that issue up, which is important for our region, right?
You know, when as you guys meet with the members, our brothers and sisters from the other islands, you know, especially talking about cabotage, if you need anything from MVA or if MVA can be of assistance to push this through, you know, it's definitely makes our job a lot easier to promote the Marianas right now, because again, there is a lot of interest, but the cost of flying to Rhoda is what, you know, I even told what is it, Chris here, Director Chris, you know, where Mayor Aubrey had the idea of trying to promote, you know, boats between Guam and Saipan. You know, I think, okay, if that's what it's going to take, then let's do it. But it means promoting Rhoda outside of the Marianas as, you know, the CNMI. But I think for the people of Rhoda, they need that. And, you know, we go back and forth. And so if that's what it's going to take, then thinking outside the box, you know, trying to expand and helping our brothers and sisters in Rhoda, then it needs to be done. And so we're open to actually doing that. But again, realizing that it might be a lot easier to promote them with Guam than with the CNMI, but it might be cost, you know, effective by doing so. And we're, as part of MVA, even though it is going to those two, matching Guam and Rhoda, Rhoda is part of the Marianas, but in order for them to get healthy, and if this is the only opportunity, then we are definitely dedicated to talking that through with the partners of Rhoda.
Thank you for that and for extending your expertise and assistance to the legislature. I yield. I don't have any budgetary questions much because we will be discussing that after, but I yield.
Thank
Chairman.
you, Senator Babalta. Yeah. I just wanted to bring up a couple of things that were brought up, I think, with Senator Jude. Senator Jude's line of questioning in regards to, I guess, the Hong Kong market. You know, you've mentioned issues surrounding the Japan market in terms of the yen and what do you call this, domestic travel, but here you have Hong Kong that is starting up, and so why isn't there that greater push to market? Or I mean, that could be your third source market, so why hasn't there been that greater push with this market that is emerging? Right, I know you're trying to wait it out and see the traffic there and how that plays out, but you know, they're already coming here, so why isn't that why aren't there more efforts placed into trying to,
You know, I mean, let's just be real. The 70% of the load factor coming in from Hong Kong Airlines is not Hong Kong citizens. Okay, it's Chinese. And, you know, because of the stance that we have with our administration, and, you know, we cannot market in the places where they're actually getting their customers. And so that's why we're not going to put so much money into Hong Kong, because the people that are actually on that Hong Kong flight are not Hong Kong citizens. They are from, some of them are, but very few. The larger amount would be from the PRC.
but even so, you know, just showing some sort of effort placed into welcoming tourists from all destinations. I mean, maybe that could be a factor for maybe Hong Kong Airlines or Hong Kong Express to come back, if that's even an option, or has that been considered? Has there just been any discussions with Hong Kong Express as to resuming their flight?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, they're going to resume under a charter situation where they don't want to take the risk. It's somebody has to take the risk, and the risks are normally the tour agents that take the risk. Anyways, we have the arrival numbers basically for Hong Kong Airlines, and you would see, I don't know what month that is, but there's more than 2,000 PRC versus 76 from Hong Kong. So that's actually Hong Kong Airlines, but the market actually is China. Okay. And so that's why we work through the partners, the tour agents that took the risk of buying those seats to help with their promotions.
Thank you. Going back to what the chair mentioned in regards to concerns from tour agents, is that I guess they wanted to see what can MBA do to assist them in regards to the reduced price of inter-island travel. I think I brought this up in prior budget hearings that, MVA has that authority to subsidize some of these travel between islands. And so why hasn't that been explored? I mean, it's even in the statute where the hot money can be used to charter or subsidize travel between the islands. So has that discussion been made? And
Yes. I believe the language in the statute is the 2% for the municipalities can be used for charter
Right.
flight promotions. So I don't know what the municipalities are doing with their share, but in terms of MVA, in terms of subsidizing inter-island travel, we've kind of, sort of refrained from sort of delving into those matters just because we're trying to build organic demand by marketing these islands. It's the airlift, the number of seats is an issue, and also frequency, of course. We kind of want to believe in the free market that if demand is there, the airlines will increase flights. And if it's not happening, we have discussed with our marketing team and the chair and some of our management team about launching sort of promotional campaigns for targeting either soft season or sort of the big events in Rota and Tinian to, I hate the word subsidized, but to sort of have an incentive for people from Guam to fly up to the islands and there be some kind of a reward, if you will, which essentially would discount the cost of travel. And we're looking at details now, and we're looking at some kind of a campaign period. You buy your ticket between, the 1st of the month and the 30th of the month, and you get, a few $100s off, or you get a few $100s to spend while you're on island. Something like that will drive traffic to the islands, to Rota and Tinian in particular. So those are something that we're being discussed right now, actually. It's been a while. But in terms of direct subsidies to the airline, the one airline that flies between the 3 islands and the one airline that flies between Saipan and Guam, it's sort of, we kind of want to help build demand organically, preferred over doing that, or launch a campaign.
And not to go against the managing director, because I believe that too, but we're at the point where we need to not think outside the box, but think inside the box, and which is something that is right in front of us. And if it takes that, we would like to do it in a smart way. Okay, if it means that we are doing an incentive directly to the airlines, we want to do it in a way where, let's say the Rota Marathon, okay, and we had 83, and we want to promote that in Japan and Korea, because we're getting most of our off-island marathoners actually from Korea. And if we have actually the interest from the tour agents in Korea, and if it means that we're going to put this subsidy, this incentive together that would go towards reducing the flight costs, then we like to put it together with a promotion, with driving more people there, during a festival, driving them during the marathon. So it's because Chris mentioned this actually yesterday, the discussion that you had. So it's not something that is off the table. It's very much on the table, but we want to make sure that we actually do it in coordination with an event that is happening there, so that we can already go to our partners in Korea and in Japan and say, okay, this is happening now. The marathon is happening in Rota again. We'll be able to work with Star Marianas and try to get it where it's not just the frequency or the price, but it also is the frequency, in order to make it work, because it is going to be a problem with the frequency.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
that's there. It's there.
Just to put it out there too that Micronesia and air cargo does daily trips on a charter basis, and that's another method that you can use to bring in tourists for a day trip, for example. But like you said, if this can be done through the 2% hot tax, then this is a discussion that should be had with the mayor in regards to promoting cheaper fares, at least, or offering it to the travel agency so that they can promote that. um, Another concern that I wanted to address or to bring up, and maybe that's something that you guys can discuss amongst yourself, is I often see this effort from MVA. Well, more like MVA kind of throws money on Rhoda and Tinian. Not to say that we're ungrateful for it, but in promoting these events or whatever events the mayors of these islands are hosting, someone like me, all I see is MVA just handing the money over and let the mayors deal with it, as opposed to, are there any real data being collected in terms of how much exposure is coming out of these events, or how much attraction these events are getting from the outside market? And so how could we better promote these activities so that it's not just kept locally, but offered to people from Guam or people that are visitors that are already in Saipan that could come for the day and experience the culture of the Marianas. I mean, even your videos, while they are great, I see the improvement from your promotions from these past couple of years. A lot of the effort seems to be placed on beaches. I mean, where is the cultural aspect of the CNMI in terms of, whether it be hiking through cultural sites or a lot of the recreation activities are, I would say, left out of your promotions. And so somebody who's maybe a Gen Z is wanting to see what there is, what the CNMI can offer. All I'm seeing on your videos are beaches, diving. And so I know this was brought up in the house, but this gentleman Vlad, right, that all of you or many of you are familiar with, I don't know if he took it upon himself to capture these moments where he offers an experience throughout the Marianas. And so I think that's something that maybe MVA is lacking, but I don't know if that's something that you've considered or trying to not really push forward with. And so I don't know. I mean, you guys are the marketing experts. How many marketing managers does MVA have right now? Just one? And so why aren't there efforts placed towards trying to get more marketing managers? And so I don't know if that's something that you guys want to address in whole or in part.
So funding is always going to be our major problem. One marketing manager with 3 marketing staff locally, plus we have our staff on Tinian and Rhoda who are not marketing, but they're more of a field operations, and then we have our marketing teams overseas that are contracted by us. I think the first question was promoting the events in Tinian and Rhoda, and there's some of the work that we do to promote it in Korea, to drive traffic. And I think historically we've sort of, like, Tinian has the Pika Festival that is our signature event. But you're right, throughout the other events throughout the island, it's hosted by the mayor's office with funding support from us. We've had this discussion internally with our team about taking over the Rhoda Sweet Potato Festival, the Kamuti Festival, to make that a signature event. It's attractive. Sweet potato is a very attractive food in Korea and Japan and really around the world. So we think that we can jazz that up, bring it to the next level so that it becomes like a Pika Fest, which is 25 years this year. And so we want to kind of do those kinds of things with Martin and his team. And there's a lot of stuff that we have ideas on, but it all comes down to funding, and we're kind of tied, like limited resources, so we kind of have to pick and choose what we can spend the most money on. But your concerns are taken. We will go back to the office and discuss ways to sort of improve the events on Tinian and Rhoda, And instead of rather just throwing money at the different events that the mayors host, you're right. Maybe we should sort of gauge traffic after we advertise in Korea and Japan, how many people actually go. And that's a challenge for us. We don't track inter-island travels. MVA only tracks international arrivals. And maybe that's something the legislature can assist us on. We do, the customs form is a division of customs form, and maybe that can be required for inter-island travel. I don't know, but something where we can be able to track inter-island travel. It's been a challenge since the beginning.
Okay. And I'm not saying to discontinue what you're currently doing. I'm just maybe a better way to collect data or to disseminate information. I mean, I think it was not too long ago, last week at festival, there was a mention of free ferry service, but I've looked everywhere throughout your website. I couldn't find anything in regards to that. And so it's just putting the information out there so that we can get more visitors or even residents from the other island come and visit and provide for the Tinian economy, etc. And so that's just something that I want you to consider. And also,
Yes, thank you.
we have yet to adopt a concurrent resolution, which pretty much establishes the ceiling. And so, with what you have provided to the members in regards to what your projections are for the next fiscal year's hot tax, that's something that I think you and the board should take to the administration and
Sure.
have the governor, if that's something that you can convince the governor to do and support, that your 7.2 is what you are projected to bring in, then he can notify the legislature of that increase. That way, that'll better protect the increase in what would be earmarked for MVA, as opposed to approving your current proposal at 4 million and waiting for a supplemental budget letter, which may never come. If we can secure that money right now, that's something that I think you can do with the board to argue with the administration so that we can protect those monies come time we approve the budget ceiling, which is going to be possibly within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so, that's just something I wanted to advise you before we leave. I know there are still members that are wanting to ask questions. And so for the last round, I'll recognize Senator Jude and then the vice chair.
Jesus Mosim, Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up question. Okay, before I how do you? It's already a statutory requirement that includes Airbnb, to pay the HOT. How are we doing with regards to collecting from those? We're not.
Not very well. We do have basically, actually, Ed's
No,
will speak to that.
I think the. Okay, so how are we going to roll it out?
Yeah, it's the enforcement of the collection of taxes.
Who enforces it?
Revenue and tax.
Revenue tax.
And they receive 2.5% of our budget to enforce it.
Okay, so have you convened a meeting prior to the submission of this budget allocation or proposal?
Yes, we've met with the Secretary of Finance and, sort of raised our concerns. We are seeing the arrivals pick up,
Mhm.
and we're seeing our projections match what Hanmi's projections are, but then it's not matching.
Inclusive of the BNBs, right?
It's not inclusive of the BNBs. And so there's a bunch of them that I'm sure, and not necessarily BNBs, but non-Hanmi member hotels as well.
Sure.
There, I don't know, on terms of collection from them, it's unknown. It's really revenue tax.
The Secretary of Finance commissioned a task force for tech. Maybe you guys can put another item in the task force so you guys can work with them. Unfortunately, the finance is not here to qualify their position, but we're going to be, I guess, Chair, we're going to be meeting with them soon, yeah? So
Yeah, since 2015 with the passage of 18-1, they have been receiving 2.5 percent of the annual budget. But the enforcement has, you hear not just MVA cry about it, you hear Chamber cry about it, you hear HANMI cry about it, that, it's a big problem, but
Yeah.
enforcement is very difficult for them, or for, I don't know, it has to be, because it hasn't been done yet.
Okay.
But yeah, we see the big difference, because our numbers for our collections really are just not even maybe a percentage off from what we receive from HANMI, which means that that the additional is just not being reported. So we know that there's 100 people that have arrived, but we only account for 35 rooms.
So the remaining, you don't know where they're staying?
That's right.
Okay. Well, that's kind of troubling for us to hear. So I highly suggest that convene a follow-up meeting, and I'm going to advocate that you guys be part of that task force with regards to that, and maybe just focus on the BNB side of 4 CMC 1502, the HOT. I'm interested. I'm actually curious with your marketing, or your looking ahead, that we have a state-of-the-art football field here, soccer, but we don't see any sports tourism that you guys are marketing. There's a lot of friendly nations that can actually use Saipan, because it's a perfect weather for them to do their training prior to the season. But you guys didn't include it in your proposal. Well, why are we doing that?
It's not necessarily in this proposal. It's really in the sort of spending plan for Japan and Korea MVA offices, which is not detailed here. It's because we need to wait to approve it, sign a contract, and then approve it. But sports marketing is a big part of their efforts to bring in sports teams, not necessarily professional sports teams, but even school groups that want to train here. Yeah, so that is part of our plan.
Okay, so can you?
It's part of this $1 million and $2 million.
Can you make that louder so that the people that outside the cinema can hear it? No, I'm just saying, we need to market the cinema as a destination for spring training, for baseball, whatever.
Yes.
But I think the biggest sports in the world right now is soccer.
It's soccer.
Yeah, and I think Saipan is a
nice facility. Yeah.
Number one, and number two is what I sometimes hear is one of the major markets that we promote is Korea, but I don't hear any can we invite the professional golfers from Korea? They're one of the top golfers in the world to train here, or are they training here? Or what are we doing? What can we do?
No, not training, but we do work with we have done work with popular golf instructor from Korea to do a TV show here, and we've worked with famous YouTubers who are mainly focused on golf to do their YouTube videos here too. So as of to the professional,
well, there was that one professional lady that we appointed an ambassador.
Yes,
who was born in used to live in Saipan.
Sorry guys, but there's a recent golf tournament. No? I think there was, I don't know, but what's the response with the annual golf tournaments here from our visitors, from golfers from Korea or Japan?
The NMC Foundation Golf Tournament.
Whatever.
Definitely marketed that in Korea and Japan in particular.
What was the response?
Good response. They actually got a bunch of tourists to join the NMC Foundation.
How many participants? Do you guys know?
144.
So how many of that are visitors from outside?
About 30, maybe.
Okay.
We're from Korea.
That's good. It's a great start.
Yeah, it is. Mainly from Korea. Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to mention that earlier, but I encourage you to be part of that. Work with NEMAS and NEMASA, or they're outstanding organization that can assist us.
Yeah, actually,
I think you're aboard one month, right?
No.
No
Not anymore. No, but they did have a group of golfers, students that came here this past week from Thailand. Yeah, and so because of the Jerry Tan's involvement in all of these sports groups, they have been bringing out football, soccer players, to do clinics, and badminton was one.
Sure.
And then also this last one with the Thailand Golfers Association. So
Okay. So last couple questions. That's something that perhaps Gloria, you can discuss amongst you with regards to the subsidy for the interland travel, as what the Vice President is saying. Please don't come back and say, legislature, you need to tell us to do it in the budget. I mean, it's before you. So
yeah, I mean, I think the only reason why we haven't done it in the past is that we don't want to set precedents to it, and we tried to do it, come around it through the different types of promotions.
Sure.
But if it, I mean, it's come to the point where people are just screaming, and we need to just do what we say we don't like to do, and it
Okay.
may come right down to that. But we want to work basically with the with Tinian and Rhoda and with their mayor's office and the delegations to see where it would make most sense, when it would make more sense to actually do this, because
Okay.
it's not something that can be done year round, because
Sure.
I mean, that's just that will eat up all our budget.
Yeah, I
Yeah, so,
understand.
but it's definitely when it comes to like when it's MVA events, and we're trying to promote the MVA events, that would be a perfect starting point of when we would work with all the stakeholders, which includes the airlines, to try to get something that makes sense to promote in Korea and Japan and any other markets. But yes, we will.
Thank you, Chair. Just two questions, and then I promise I'm not going to ask anymore. I know that I believe Star Marianas, they're ramping up again with their what do you call that? The tour on their planes. They bring in customers and they fly over Saipan. So I don't know if that's something that you might want to consider also putting in put it in your marketing, because
Yes.
it does help the company, and it also helps the exposure.
Yeah, we do advertise it. We do advertise it at trade shows. We bring pamphlets, and our PowerPoint presentations include that as a new activity, or
Sure.
sort of an extended activity in all the
Okay.
markets.
Yeah, and finally, Chris, I think the chair acknowledged this, that there are some other components in our destination, in our community, where we can market. I know MBA has been very effective in promoting the cultural dance music, but think we're lacking a little bit on our on the artifacts, or like those what do you call those people that make the spondylus and I think we need to start marketing them as well, because that's part of our culture, and that's what we want. Not only music and dance, but if there's any trade show that you believe, Taste of the Marianas, they're there.
Yeah,
July 4th, they're there.
yeah,
I think they're at Festpac.
yes.
So they're doing their part, but I
We
think we need to
actually-
incorporate that.
For Jara last year, we wanted to bring in one of the wood carvers, who was also at Festpac, and because he needed to bring materials like metal materials that were seen as weapons. They weren't allowed. Sharp objects, Jara didn't allow us, so we had to switch and bring in the coconut weavers and the cultural
Yeah,
dancers.
that's great. I mean,
yeah,
at least but there are other
yeah,
extend it through, no?
right. But we're looking. Yeah, we want to always diversify the way because artists is not just weaving and dancing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's called the spondylus and the I don't
Wood
what do you
carvers?
call it? Yeah, the wood carvers. So we have been thinking about that actually. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking like at Jata a different way, because it's back in Tokyo this year. Osaka, it was a little dismal, but we're looking at separating booths so that we are able to invite the hotel association. We're able to invite Jasta to have their own booths and do promotions there. And so, I mean, it might be, I don't know whether or not we can sell things in Jata at our booths. No, I think we might be able to. No?
There's no selling, no food, no like food for sale.
Okay, but it might be something where, okay, we can't bring the carver, but we certainly can bring the artifact itself, you know, and promote it.
When was the last time you held a MBA meeting in Rhoda? Board meeting.
We're supposed to have it annually.
Okay.
Yeah, we did
Tinian?
one in Tinian, March, I believe. Well, it was for Pika Fest. So February, Pika
Okay.
Fest. So Rhoda is next. We tried to
Okay.
set it up before, but we couldn't. There weren't enough flights, but we will in Rhoda this year.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier that you thank us for supporting EVS TAP. Okay. You know which clientele we're addressing with that, the concern, right? And you mentioned earlier that you are pleased that we are all up on Annex 6. You don't have to answer today. What if the Annex 6? Annex 6 is approved already? You guys know? No? So what's the likelihood? Do you know?
You know, I mean, like Senator Salina had said, basically, you know, there are problems that are going on, geopolitical problems. For instance, the
Sure.
Philippines Coast Guard that just got attacked by the China
yeah.
Coast Guard. So there are things there that will prevent it from happening, you know, sooner than later. But you know, we're still trying to prepare ourselves that in the case that this whole situation calms down, that we're going to be ready to receive and open this market. So the EVS tap is one thing, and that is what everyone's been asking for, which was more vetting.
Sure.
So that just protects us a little bit more than the parole in place. So you know, that's a good thing. That's vetting. That's safer. The Annex 6 eventually will come, and that's when everything just kind of calms down around the world, and especially the Indo-Asia area. So we think that it will happen, but it's taking a lot longer than we thought.
Just so for those that are unaware, the Annex 6 is the
So with the travel air agreement in 2007 between China and the U.S., it actually carved out a section that they refer to Annex 6, which exempts the CNMI from the quota of flights between U.S. and China.
So the third option is the cabotage, no?
Yeah, the cabotage will help for inter-island travel.
Okay.
It won't, internationally, it might help increase what we have, because it allows them to go from Saipan to Guam, for instance, without having to go back to their originating country. So that will help. Cabotage will help that, but cabotage won't help the flights between China, direct flights to China and
It's the
CNMI.
Annex 6.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to go back a little bit, rewind a little bit to the some of the comments. We do not market in China right now. And I do want to point out that our competitors in the region, including Guam, Hawaii, California, New York, and all the other states and territories, are marketing in China. We're the only one that doesn't. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah, and that summit that happened in May, we were invited.
You were?
We were, yes.
And that summit is? For the listening public?
The U.S. Yes, so it's a brand USA, and it was a U.S.
Did any
China traveling
was there any
summit.
participation?
Not by us, but by 600 other people, and Guam. Yes,
Why didn't you go?
we don't market in China.
Isn't that
At
the
least
one
to
where
be an
the
observer, no chair. But just something that which need to catch the wave, because here we are talking about building 500,000 tourists coming here, and that's a representation of more revenue to come in, so that we can service our community, And then and I understand, I get it, and I'm confident with our border protection and our military. I'm confident that they will take good care of us, because they just have much as interest as we are here. And I'm just pleased that even though there was a closure of the Hyatt, that the projection is still 158, and there was no retraction of that to the word. No, I'm talking about the projection of revenue projection. The administration came back with the same projection to that of pre-closure of Hyatt.
Because basically, Hanmi is at 37%.
Okay, so I'll leave you with this question. Say, for example, the Annex 6 prevails. Okay? Oh no, Annex 6 it was happening right before 2007. It's the cabotage, the one I was about to ask. If there's nobody that wants to fly us in between Saipan and Tinan, non-US carrier, if there's no one but Hong Kong Airlines, what are you guys gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool. I mean, the only way that it doesn't affect is it doesn't affect direct flights from China to the CNMI. But
No, it's
Hong
not-
Kong to
It's not gonna
CNMI.
affect it in a sense because it's gonna allow the bridge between Saipan and Tinian. I mean Saipan and Guam, right?
Yeah, but there's still, we are still under the quota of the flights between the US and China. And they're not going to take a flight that goes to New York City,
Okay.
okay, to go to Saipan and Guam. But Hong Kong Airlines is outside of the quota of China. It's not considered in the aviation agreements to be under the China and U.S. Aviation agreement. So it's totally separate. It's not within play of Annex 6, but it will be in play with cabotage.
You know, as small as a cinema is, we sure gets complicated sometimes. You know, so I applaud you for keeping it up and trying to work through. But I still feel that we need to not then totally be apprehensive in building the marketing in Hong Kong or China for that matter. And I'm confident with the vetting process that's going to happen. If that, and we stand to support your building back the numbers. And please enforce
Thank you, Senator.
Airbnb. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'll yield back.
Thank you. I recognize Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. I just have some clarifying questions and follow-up questions. So going back to the budget submittal from the governor under personnel. So I guess there was a proposal for 1.6 million for personnel costs and 41 FTEs. Is the 41 FTEs inclusive of Tinian and Rhoda or just Saipan? Okay.
Yes, Saipan and Tinian and Rhoda. all
Okay,
three.
so this is the entire MVA. And is the 41 FTEs for both filled and vacant positions or just filled?
For all all full-time employment vacancies are
So all of the
FTEs,
FTEs, regardless of whether or not
42
it's vacant.
FTEs maximum. We've only filled 27.
Out of the 41, how many is filled? 27.
27.
And then the rest is vacant,
Vacant.
but funded.
No.
So the 41 so the 41 total FTEs is both filled and vacant, correct? And the proposal that you are requesting is for the entire 41 FTEs.
No, it's just for the 28 positions that are filled.
Okay,
We're
because
not asking for more.
under FY25, MVA's request was for 41 FTEs, and under the governor's submission was 41 FTEs. So
The 42 FTEs, that's what we're allowed. We're allowed 42 FTEs. But right now we only have 28
right, and the rest is vacant.
and the rest is vacant.
So you're for
so for-
FY25, you're requesting for the entire FTEs.
No, we're just requesting for 28. We don't plan
It's
to
just
fill.
to have the cap and
Yeah.
Oh,
it's up to
okay.
them to-
Okay, so clarified. And then out of the 1.6, I believe 143,000 of that will be for within grade increase for staff and management, correct? And is it for all the FTEs or just some of the FTEs? So there will be within grade increases for all of the FTEs. Okay, got it.
The last time our staff got WGIs was 22.
Okay.
21.
Do you want to clarify something? Okay. All right. Okay, so that takes care of the personnel costs. Now, going down to all others, I see that per the governor's proposal, there's only $1. Okay. And then utilities is 0. So uh, the governor's proposal. So on MVA's request, I see that it's 50,000. But what is the actual utility cost for MVA on an annual basis?
For FY 2023, here it's 42,000.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the
that's for
50,000 is sufficient to cover the annual. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So in the governor on the governor's proposal, it's 0. So I would just assume that MVA will find the funds to pay for its utilities. Right. Okay. All right. And then also earlier you had mentioned that the hotel tax for June has yet to be paid out, right? So how much is due to MVA for June?
it's around 349,000 due to MBA.
Okay,
Net of everything.
349K.
Yes.
Is that the monthly average, or it just depends on the number of arrivals?
Depends on the arrivals.
Is it consistent, or do we see an uptrend or downtrend, or just
So far, our HOT are from previous months is up more than
so it's an uptrend?
yes.
Because every time I look at the MVA numbers on the occupancy tax rate, it shows, well, it says that we continue to have an increase in arrivals. So I would assume that the hot tax would also follow that, right? It has a
Yes, Madam Senator, but I do want to point out that the projections lately, that
Mhm.
while they have been an increase in versus year over year versus last year, they are slightly lower than our projection, and we do think it's because of
Right.
the B&Bs and the
It's understated
collection.
because it's
Yeah,
missing the
right.
B&B, which um, definitely need to have a conversation with revenue and taxes and task force, because that's a huge gap that MVA could be availing to, as far as revenues. So okay, next. So we talked, earlier there were some talks about calendar events, and as you know, I followed you guys to Osaka last year for the expo, and while I was there, I did kind of walk around the expo to observe other booths, right? Just what they're doing different from what we have to offer, and I noticed that on some of the some of the destinations they had like a huge calendar really for like this year, right? So they were advertising all the different types of events that were going to be occurring in their respective areas, and I was wondering if that's something that MVA has considered doing. So we have so many events that MVA offers, and is that something that we could also put out there so that they can plan ahead, right, knowing what events we're having, like the
Oh,
signature events?
absolutely. In fact, I think that our marketing manager is sick of me saying, we want a calendar of events and the importance of it. But yeah, I mean, we realize that not having that is just a missed opportunity, and so
Absolutely.
we are even sharing that with the tour agents to make sure
Yeah.
that they understand and know what's happening every
Yeah.
throughout the year.
I think it's a great opportunity for people who like to plan ahead, right? Just knowing what events are taking place in what month, they can coordinate their plans and hopefully make the effort to come our way. So just thought I'd share that
Thank you.
observation. And then I wanted to touch on the cruise ships that arrived earlier this year, because I'm sure I know that MVA talked about it during their general membership meeting, I believe. And so MVA and CPA is aware of these cruise ships coming in way ahead of time, right? And in my observation, I don't know if there were any talks between MVA, the administration, and maybe CPA, but I felt that it was a missed opportunity for all. I think was it 3 or 5 cruise ships that came on island, because yeah, 3 major ones, because I felt that we didn't take the opportunity to generate some revenues, especially with our local vendors. I saw a lot of the visitors just walking on the marina, right towards Galleria, and they looked kind of lost. They didn't really know where they were going. It was really hot. So I guess my observation was we could have probably planned something for them. Maybe I was thinking more at the port, so like when they get off the ship, we have like, some kind of entertainment to welcome them. And then also an opportunity for our local vendors to sell their food or whatever, drinks, souvenirs, right? It was an opportunity to make money. I mean, we had like 3,000 passengers in one day in comparison to the number of visitors that we receive on a monthly basis. So that was a lost opportunity, I felt, and so maybe just in the future when we know that these ships are coming in, if we can have something for them and then also give the opportunity for people to generate some money.
Yeah, we did something with that. We had a meeting with CPA
Mhm.
and some of the stakeholders, like the travel agents. Unfortunately, the first one we kind of experienced some glitches with how we should be receiving them. So if it was a learning lesson, so we were able to discuss that. One of them is that travel agent would have different schedules, and but we were able to convince them to allow time between the ship to the bus, right, to allow them time to pass by these vendors with who we invited. So we had several food vendors and we had several we even had dancers. So yeah, we were able to do that. It was kind of confusing at the beginning, but we did discuss some of the setbacks and the challenges. So I think we were able to develop a better plan the second or by the third time, to include the directional signs from the ship to the Garapan area, because there were some of them were going to the middle road instead of
Yeah.
taking the Marina
Yeah, it was,
route.
in my personal view, I felt like it was not coordinated as well as it should have been. There were many of them that they were just they looked lost and they were like, where should we go? Where can we eat? And as tourists, right, they want to experience the culture, the food, and it would have been great if we had something to offer them. Maybe not on port for safety reasons. I can understand if the port was, unable to accommodate our vendors there, but maybe along the pathway, maybe tents could be set up by our vendors to sell coconuts or whatever local experience they can get out of the CNMI. So that was just some thoughts that I'd like to share for future visits.
Yeah, I mean, we tried and and we did send up some vendors, and with every ship that comes in, we do have entertainment as they're coming in and as they're leaving. The 3,000, 4,000 people coming in at the same time, processing through immigration. Some people didn't get off the boat basically until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where they had to turn around and then go back. The tour agents that actually had been booked didn't have enough buses, so they were borrowing buses from everyone. So the coordination for the next two were a lot easier because there were less than 1,000 people, but the 4,000 is was it just after not doing it for so many years, it really was a learning experience. However, I do have some good news. The three ships that came in, unfortunately, were not as profitable as it could have been, and that's because they hit Guam first. Okay, but according to the tour agents that we've been talking to, they've been able to negotiate for the same time next year these ships pass through, where they would stop in Saipan first. And so we definitely will be ready once the schedule is released to try to get more people out. It's easier to get our word out individually to our members, in which we emailed all our members and put together a flyer that had coupons. But like this one. Yeah, like this one on the screen. And so, it's to involve everyone else. I mean, the word was set out. Even Chambers sent it out to their members. But if you're not a member of any one of those, and you're not actually listening to the PRs and stuff like that, then we it's hard to reach everyone if we can't. They have to come at least a quarter of the way, if not halfway.
And
Yeah.
that is definitely great news. So maybe just like in the future, if I know that a lot of them were walking under the really hot sun, and if we just had vendors that were able to sell their water to them, right? Even an umbrella or whatever merchandise that they could sell to them. I mean, those were opportunities that we missed, that we could have generated some revenues out of. And instead of them walking to find a restaurant to eat, if we could have the vendors come their way, similarly to like the Taste of Marianas. I mean, that would have been a great experience for them to experience our local foods, and give the small businesses, like the restaurants, right, an opportunity to make up the difference from all the lost revenue that they've been experiencing. So just a thought for future events. Next, so we talk about marketing. I do applaud MVA for all the marketing efforts that they are making for both, for all three islands, Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda. But more specifically for Rhoda, my concern is that, there's we're trying to market Rhoda, but yet we have some challenges with the flights. So how can we fix that? Like we're spending a lot of time and effort and money in marketing Rhoda, but when it comes to transportation, that becomes an issue. So how can we, I don't know, I think that's an issue that I don't know if it's MVA that needs to fix that. But I know that you guys talked about the 2% that does go to the municipality, right? And where they could probably use that to subsidize
Right.
the transportation or maybe the package. I like the idea of, instead of direct subsidy to the airline, maybe
A campaign, right? Some
yeah,
promotional
yeah.
campaign. Yeah.
or maybe issue them some vouchers
Right.
wherein they could actually spend the voucher on the
On
island
the
of
island.
Rhoda, so that
That's
the money
exactly
stays,
right.
it flows within the Rhoda economy. That's definitely a great idea.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then going back to the United agreement, I know that the agreement hasn't been finalized yet, so I understand that you can't share much information. But um, if are we referring to another subsidy? Is that what the agreement is with United?
No, it's really a joint marketing promotional agreement. We put aside funding for the use of marketing these flights, directly marketing these flights only for the Narita Saipan flight, and so that's kind of what we're putting our money into.
Okay,
that
so
it
it's
builds
not
demand.
subsidizing the
No,
seats.
I wouldn't call it a subsidy. It's
Okay.
it's a
So
marketing
it's a
joint
marketing effort.
marketing
Okay.
promotional agreement.
Okay. And then, so for the marketing efforts in Japan, what medium is MVA using? Are we using strictly social media? Are we using billboards? Are we using? I know in the past when I was in Japan, especially in the Tokyo area, I did see a lot of advertisement for Guam and Hawaii on the trains, and I don't know if that's something that
Yes, Madam Senator. We aside from social media platforms, I think we use 4 or 5 different ones in the Japan market. We are advertising currently this month in Shinjuku Station and the 3 main exits, east, west, and I think it's new south exit. And then in Ikebukuro Station, those are giant advertisements where the traffic is highest.
Yes. That's
In
good.
those stations. And as we all know, Shinjuku is the world's busiest train station. There's 2 or 3 million people that transit through that every day. And so that's our target. There's other different avenues that we use there besides traditional social media and that kind of marketing, direct consumer marketing. It's really a lot through sort of the magazines that come here. There's one here now. There's a fan
Yes.
group here now from
Correct.
Japan.
We do paid media through television and magazines as
Okay.
as well as newspapers.
Okay.
Yes.
And I do notice that we, you guys have talked about bringing over the YouTubers and social media influencers. Have you considered also hiring local influencers that there's a lot of them that actually do pretty good videos on different sites, right? Even places that I've never been to before. And so what better way to connect with visitors than for people from the island that talks about all these great places that they could visit when they come.
Yes, we're definitely looking into working with local influencers.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's in the works.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Then on the short video clip that you guys showed us today, it's a really great video, and I like the different aspects that was shown. The chair did mention that there was a lot of clips on the beaches and maybe not so much on the cultural aspect of the CNMI. What I did notice though, and I don't know if this has been raised, but on the cultural dance, maybe like I don't know if I just missed part of the video, but I only saw a representation of the Rafalawash dancers and not the Chamorro. So that might be something that can be a sensitive thing. Just knowing how things have been lately, just thought I'd share my observation that
Thank
I
you.
only saw one culture being represented and not the other. So maybe that's something that just to be mindful and more sensitive.
Absolutely, Senator. And thank you. And yes, to your point on promotions for culture, there was one that we released recently in Japan on coconut weaving with Francis Sablan and that her organization. There was one on 500 sails sailing in the lagoon.
I think it's just always important to
The
make sure
doni
that we
making.
include both cultures so that they're
I agree.
Yeah, I mean the one that we presented today, and which was also part of our GMM, is only one of the advertisements that they created. So
Mhm.
there are other advertisements that they have created
Okay.
that focus on different other parts of the cultures, both Rafalishan as well as
Yes. Sometimes
Chamorro.
it just takes one to
Yeah.
create chaos. So
Well,
we
yeah.
just want to be mindful
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah. We've
Um,
had focus on both cultures and as well as non-beach destinations on the other. But this one was the first one that they actually
and
issued.
maybe try and feature more of our cultural foods, right? From like, like I don't know. I'm sure we have lobsters. We have coconut crab. Yeah, yeah. So that a lot of people tend to gravitate to places where there's many different types of food that they could experience, right? So we want to always try and incorporate food in our advertisement. And then you guys talked about I think the chair or maybe somebody asked about the reserved account. Is that a restricted account? So it's specific to,
It's for our building fund.
but
Yeah,
you
what
guys
is
have
actually
been,
left over is the building fund.
so so it's a restricted account, but MVA has been using it to pay for
And
other.
so what we had before with the 6 million, we did have it broken down into different sections. So there was one that was, when we had the Sky Mart here, we
Mhm.
had put reserves on there and for joint promotions, and so that was still in there. There was a section for destination. So we had actually broken the restricted fund down
Okay.
to different sections, assigned
So
the
it's
funds
not
and the amount.
specific to the building that was.
Yeah, so what is left over now of the 6 million is the reserve that we had for the building fund.
So the funding source for the initial 6 million came from.
It was savings basically for actually when the earlier years where we
So
would.
whatever that was not spent was kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we basically tried to restrict it. But, if we needed something for destination enhancement, like when we had the appropriations, or if we needed this or that, we took it out of specific areas within
So
the.
there is some flexibility within the restricted account too.
Yeah, there's some flexibility.
Okay.
But like I said, what is actually left over is what we had for our building fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so last but not least, there was a slide up there with regards to like the education expo, maybe that, and I hear, you guys explained that you kind of just help facilitate the networking between the source and the CNMI, right? Um, do you guys collect data as far so that we can close the loop on that? So let's say you created the network between the source and the institutions here, but you can't really um, like if let's say you refer 10 people to connect with someone from here in Saipan. Out of the 10, how many of them actually took materialize the whatever it is that we're trying to do, right? So that we can have some kind of statistic as to the efforts that MVA makes when you guys go on these trips and you make that network and you
Right.
facilitate, that just
We-
so that we have something to look at. And
Thank you, Senator. We do keep our research division keeps statistics on through the customs form of people arriving here for educational purposes, their student, and so that data is available to us. We
Okay.
don't have it on us now, but we could definitely delve deeper
Okay.
into it and see. For example, after this education fair that was held, how many came in as students afterwards, right? Is that's what you're getting
Yes,
at?
yes.
Yeah, we
So
can track
I
that
think
data.
you showed that there was the visitors are 10,000. You had 10,000 visitors, and out of that 10,000, I think
How many
Senator
came in,
Babauta
right?
kind of alluded to that, right? Like
Yeah.
how many of that actually came to the
Materialize,
CNMI and registered to come to school here. So just
We can delve
data
into
like
that.
that would be great, because it helps substantiate a lot of the efforts that MVA has been doing to help promote the CNMI in many different ways, and not just the tourist attraction, but also in that. And has MVA done any exit surveys with our visitors that go back to
It's been a while. The last exit survey was pre-COVID, but we are working right now with. We don't have the funding for it, so CEDA, Commonwealth Economic Development Administration Authority, has offered to support us, and so
Okay.
we submitted a letter of request for them to fund up to 5 year. We want a 5 year exit survey program, and to include a what do we call it? A resident sentiment survey, so we can get the what do our resident population feel about tourism and
sure.
ways to improve it, ways that they think we could do better, or
Yeah.
things that are doing well
Yeah.
and they want to see more of. So we are working with CETA.
Okay.
That letter just came to them. I believe they just discussed it in their board meeting this month or last month. So
Okay.
we're waiting on a response from them.
I think it's very critical that we understand what our visitors view after they visit us, right? Whether or not it's a destination that they themselves would you know ask their friends and families to come and join us or not, and if not, what are some of the areas that we could improve upon. I know one of the major concerns is like the restrooms in the different tourist sites. So some of them don't have restrooms, some of them do, but if they do, they're not operable. Someone had brought to my attention earlier this month that there was a long line at the grotto, and to use the restroom, and I don't know how many restroom stalls we have there, but maybe that's just something that we need to probably take a look at and see. I mean, if we have a growing demand at the grotto, I mean, it would be in our best interest to try and expand on that. Maybe have shower heads for them to rinse off. Just
Yeah, comments taken. We just met with Parks and Recs this morning actually to discuss the grotto
okay,
because we're hearing the same concerns.
okay,
And we do understand they do collect a $5 entry fee for every non-resident that goes down the
Mhm.
stairs and swims or dives. So we are asking them to provide data on where that money is going,
okay.
and hopefully that can be used towards renovating the
Yeah,
restrooms and
absolutely. We want to
improving
try and
the
make it
site.
as not so much convenient, but these are just some of the essential things that one would expect to see or have when they go visit a place, right? Especially because it's so remote from everything else. So that would be, something that I would recommend. But other than that, Chair, thank you.
Thank you,
MBA.
Vice. Just some closing thoughts based on what the Vice Chair had mentioned and Senator Jude. You mentioned that you have this reserve funding, but how much is MVA currently spending on rental?
$8,888 a month.
And where is this coming out from?
Our hotel occupancy tax, or the
So
tax,
from your operational
yeah,
expense.
operations funds.
What issues are you having in regards to moving forward with any plans to, I don't know, maybe build a new facility, or is 3 million not enough?
It's
or-
really funding. Yeah, 3 million is not enough for a building nowadays. With the construction costs nowadays, it's insufficient. So
But what about your current rental rate? Aren't you able to find something cheaper?
we haven't.
In terms
We-
of a commercial building?
We just issued a RFP last May, and all the submittals that came in, that's the lowest price we got, unfortunately.
Where you're currently stationed at.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that there are some concerns in regards to the facility. Wasn't that included as part of the bid in terms of what you can expect?
Yes.
And why hasn't that been addressed?
They're making renovations where they can, but the cost difference between what we're paying now and the next highest 2 or 3 proposals was significant, almost triple the cost that we're paying now. We just couldn't afford it.
But you've gone out or are you prevented from going out and trying to find other maybe companies that weren't aware of this bid? Because I mean, from what I'm hearing is that there are even rats running on your roof. That's a big concern, and even parking. When I went to submit my trip report, parking was such a hassle. I mean, these are some concerns that for an agency such as this tourism agency.
Thank you very much, Senator, and all your comments. We are 100% aware. We've informed our landlord to take action, and we trust and expect that they will, and we'll let you know if nothing happens.
Okay, but going back to the I guess the money that you have available, are there any government facilities that you can renovate to move into? I mean, has there been any discussion with DPL, even for that matter?
Many discussions with DPL. We actually do have a property, but we found out that we believe the House is trying to do something with that property and zone it where it would make it impossible for us to build there. There is another possibility, since DPL does not have a large enough building for us to move into or for us to even renovate, that we could buy private sector, maybe hopefully down in Garapan. But even with that, we're trying to get legal advice as to whether or not MVA as an agency would be able to do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just if I can request your office to submit an updated listing of your current personnel. I know we received the position and salaries, but maybe what the proposal is for next fiscal year,
Thank
as
you.
well as should your proposed increase be entertained by the administration, and if we ever do receive notification of the increase in the resources available, if you can provide a detailed breakdown of how that additional 2.3 million would MVA would utilize those monies for. I know that the proposal that we have is inclusive of what you would be spending that on if you also have the local funds, which I don't think might be something that we can entertain right now. But at least if we increase the hot tax and the projections of that hot tax, what would those additional monies be used for? With that, members, anything else from the members? If none, I hope that maybe Italy is another place you can go to, and I've been seeing news that they're chasing away tourists because it's being a
Barcelona, they're spraying
Yeah.
water guns at the tourists.
yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
So I hope we're Senator Balta, you have something? Okay. With that, we appreciate you coming in
Thank you.
and shedding some light to some of the members on your improvements and your achievements as well as the challenges that you faced. If there's anything else that we need from you, I'll have one of the LA staff send it out
Yes.
to you. You've been very. I know Dave has been submitting a lot of requests,
Yeah.
and if you have any of those information with you now, please do share it. Otherwise, we
Yes.
can also get it through email.
Yes.
And then maybe we'll wait to see. We'll give you another 2 weeks to see if there's any progress in
Changes.
regards to the new projections that you're
Okay.
proposing. And so, with that, I'd like to hand the floor over to you or the chair if you have anything in closing
you.
you'd like to.
Thank you very much, Senator and members of this committee. We really don't have anything further. I really appreciate this open discussion with you guys. And with regards to the request from Mr. Rampan, we do have it ready. We apologize that we weren't able to send it. We have it at hard copy here, but we'll email it so that you guys all have it. That includes the personnel and all the other documents that he asked for. No further questions or comments from our team. Thank you to our team for being here. There's a lot of us in the audience, and thank you, senators, for being here. No further questions, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, MBA. You are hereby excused. Members, we now move down to announcements. Any other announcements? If none, the next hearing will be on Rhoda on the 24th and 25th, followed by Department of Finance on the 30th here on Saipan. All right. If there's nothing else from the members, can I get a motion for adjournment? All right. Motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. This meeting is hereby adjourned at 4:36 p.m.